And welcome back.
Welcome, everyone.
Welcome, 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 welcome.
We
Whole cake
are.
finale time, ladies and gentlemen.
I have.
Welcome to
I've been
Cinema
waiting
City.
for this episode of this podcast for about 3 months now, since the moment I got lag to start watching slash reading One
Since
Piece.
since we watched The Boy in the Barrel.
Yeah, this this is my favorite section of the entire series. Wano is a very close contender. But I think Whole Cake is so tight and such an encapsulation of everything that Oda does well. It also has my favorite Straw Hat is the focus being Sanji, and my second favorite non-Straw Hat character in Katakuri also being a focus. So
Yeah, and as someone who has I finished this arc about 5-ish days ago, I am obsessed. I think this arc is incredible. I have thought more about this arc than maybe any arc that we've covered so far.
yeah,
I, you guys can't see my notes. My notes are about 3 times bigger than the Dressrosa finale.
yo,
To
I
sort of give
I
an
can attest.
indication.
I'm looking at this shit right now, and like
So, I've been
full
doing a
on
lot of
like theory
thinking.
talk. He
I've
normally it's
been
just like
in. Uh,
bullet points. He put in
yeah,
a lot of work this week, guys.
yeah,
He
I
was
loved this section. I think this
fiending
this
for more
section
One
did
Piece.
so many things right. I think it to me this is, and I said, maybe I don't remember if I mentioned this in the discussion, but with Dressrosa I was thinking, like, I was like, oh, maybe this is as good as Water 7 Annie's Lobby. I am comfortable saying that this is as good, if not better, than Water 7 Annie's Lobby. Um,
That's so fucking
I
great.
think that this arc, it reaches all those same highs, and it hits so many different
Hmm.
highs that arc didn't have the
Yeah,
opportunity to try and
absolutely.
hit. It touches on so many interesting characters with Sanji and with Brook and with Pedro and with Katakuri and Big Mom and Luffy and everybody, and it's just so
And
good.
every single you will
Um,
also notice now that my little avatar has changed to his final form because my
he's
boy Big
evolved.
News Morgans
Big News Morgan has finally arrived at the party.
finally arrived. I always wanted it to be Big News Morgan, but I didn't want to spoil anything about this character, who is such a minor character, but I love so much.
Uh, but
Um,
I have been completely enraptured within this arc for the last week. Just thinking about it, I've been doing so much theorying. I've got a lot of predictions for the future. I've got a lot to say
oh yeah.
about stuff that happens within this arc. One moment in particular, I'm sure you probably know what I'm talking about, but maybe you don't. And
I mean, there's a lot of
there's a
one
lot of
moments
moment
in
there's a
this
lot of one
section.
moments in this arc. There's one in particular that I have thought more about than maybe any other arc or many other
Hmm.
part of this section. But there's so much. There's so much to this arc that I really love.
Hmm.
Um, I was sort of consistently blown away with the quality and the pace. I like the pacing in this arc was so much tighter than with Dressrosa.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I wasn't too bothered by Dressrosa's pacing until I got to this arc, and now retroactively Dressrosa feels like it really dragged a little bit with
Yeah, right.
how quickly, like, anytime you think something's about to start dragging in this arc, it finishes and something new
And
and
something new
interesting
starts.
starts.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah. So, as in an effort to try to make this not a 4 hour long discussion, I think we should just jump right into
yeah,
it.
jump right into the plot. We're gonna try and, move through the plot as quickly as can possibly be achieved with an arc this dense with interesting stuff going on.
Yeah.
For those of you who may or may not be reading along, we did start this section with chapter 863 and end it on chapter 902, which is
Wow.
midway through volume 86 to the sort of the beginning of volume 90.
Hmm.
Um, so God, there's so much shit that happens. So this section sort of starts with us crashing the wedding, right?
Yes. I do want to give a tiny little spotlight to. I don't think it's Luffy's plan. I think it was the rest of the gang knowing that what Luffy's gonna do, and then making their plan around it.
Hmm.
With the all the different Luppies jumping out of the cake, um, and maybe thinking that like, oh, they're not gonna know which one is which,
Yeah.
and then obviously Luffy having to announce himself.
Well,
Um,
she asked which one was the real one. He couldn't
this
just
is
say,
true.
he couldn't just
He
lie.
he can't. A pirate wouldn't
A pirate
lie.
wouldn't lie. That would make them a bad pirate.
Right.
But speaking of very good
Then
pirates,
speaking of very good pirates.
very good pirates, one of my favorite pirates, in fact,
Oh man.
uh, we have the Knight of the Sea, Jinbei.
First first son of the sea, boss Jinbei.
Boss
He
Jinbei, who
is
appears to
such a
protect
force in this
Luffy.
arc.
He is he is a real, I mean, he is like the backbone of this arc, I
Yeah.
think.
In an arc without Zoro, I think he really steps into the quote unquote first mate role, even though the
Yeah,
Straw Hats don't have a first mate.
he steps into a similar first mate style role that Zoro does, but I think he differentiates himself from Zoro in the sense that Zoro, I feel, not that I don't want to word this wrong, but I would say Zoro feels more like one of the guys, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. No,
And like, not to say that Jinbei is
Jinbei
not
has
one of the
like
guys, but Jinbei has like
Jinbei has wisdom. He is
wisdom. Jinbei is like
experienced.
old, wise. Like, it is something that I didn't realize the crew was missing so desperately until later in this
Right.
arc, where it's like we don't have an experienced pirate on this crew.
Right.
Not that our crew are slouches, but we don't have somebody who has been through the thick of this shit for like
Exactly.
decades.
Who is yeah.
And Jinbei is that. Jinbei like knows what
Mhm.
hardships they may face, and he knows
Right.
ways to deal with
Jinbei
them
has
and how to
been a
guide
pirate
them through it.
captain before.
Yeah. He's
I
been
mean,
a
I guess so is
crewmate, he's
Brook
been a
technically.
captain. That's true.
But Brook is
Brook.
also kind of like clinically insane.
Yeah, Brook. But it's been 50 years for Brook. It's been a
Yeah.
day for Jinbei.
Right.
Jinbei was on another pirate crew like a day ago.
Right.
Um, and so I just really love Jinbei in this whole section. I especially
Right.
love this confrontation he has with Big Mom.
Absolutely.
Also, brief note, I was listening to some of our previous recordings before this one just because I wanted to refresh myself on what I was thinking about.
Mhm.
And I noticed that in the previous discussions, I said I love this moment or this thing a lot. And if you were bothered by that, good luck, because this episode's going to be
Yeah.
a
Because
real tough.
we're gonna love a lot of
I'm gonna
moments.
love a lot of shit in this arc. But regardless, I love this moment of this clash between Big Mom and Jinbei,
Yeah.
where she gives him the ultimatum again, the stay your life ultimatum, and it doesn't work
Mhm. It doesn't work
because
because
he's
he has
not
no
afraid.
fear of her.
A man who would be
And this
crewmate of the future pirate king cannot afford to tremble in the presence of a mere emperor. As
a
of this
mere
moment, I
emperor.
quit the Big Mom Pirates.
Gosh,
God, he's
it's
so
so
awesome.
good. It's so hard. It's on par with the Brooke calling her young lady thing,
Yeah. It's this
where
moment.
he just
Ah,
it is a
yep.
it is a declaration of Luffy's worth and his belief in Luffy. It is just straight up dissing Big Mom,
Yeah, calling her a
calling her a
mere emperor.
mere emperor of the sea, as if that's not like the craziest title that you could achieve in this world.
As if that's not the second strongest title you can have as a
Right.
pirate, behind Pirate King.
Yeah.
And the fact that he is declaring this, this is basically him saying, "I am officially a Straw Hat Pirate now."
Right.
And I think there's maybe a
Exactly.
moment a little later in this arc where I think he really comes into his own as a member of the crew.
Hmm.
But technically he isn't a member of the crew yet because he had to stay behind with the Sun Pirates, and so he isn't actually joined. Shut up, nerd.
Shut up. Shut up.
Jinbei's been a part of the crew since like Marineford, as far as I'm concerned. So,
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, he's been a straw hat. He's just.
as far as I'm
I mean,
concerned,
like,
he's been a Straw Hat since Ace told him to look after his little brother.
look,
So,
look. If Vivi is still a straw hat, then fucking Jinbei has been a straw hat this whole time.
yeah, that's my thoughts
You don't
exactly.
have to be on the Sunny slash Mary to be a straw hat.
Yeah, I agree. But I absolutely adore this moment, and I really adore Jinbei throughout this whole section. And I already talked sort of at length last time about how much I like Jinbei, and
Oh
Jinbei
yeah.
has only gotten even better in this half of
Oh,
the story.
Jinbei stocks are on the
Jinbei
rise.
stacks are on the rise. I really like Jinbei. I like
Mm,
he's a huge breath of new air into the crew in a sense
yeah.
that I really didn't realize that we needed in this crew.
Mhm.
And it makes me, and I'll get into more of my thoughts on this again for another discussion in a row later about who could potentially be the last member of the crew, because I feel like
Mhm.
Jinbei breathes such this interesting new life into the crew, and I feel like whoever is the next and presumably final member, at least I think
Mhm.
there's going to be one more. Um, Needs to bring something new to the crew in a similar way to Jinbei, this new breath, this new
Yeah, I
perspective.
absolutely agree.
And getting ahead of myself a little bit is part of the reason why I don't think it's going to be Carrot. But I'll get into that later when I get into my discussion about
Mhm.
who I think the final member of the crew will be. Even though I do quite like Carrot and think she would be great, I don't think
Oh,
it's gonna be her.
I love Carrot. Carrot's one of my favorite characters. Like from this whole section, I fucking love Carrot. She's adorable. Her moment later on that we're gonna get into is incredible, but I just don't. She just feels like a regular Straw Hat, and I feel like for the final 10th Straw Hat, it again, like you said, it needs to be something different. Someone who
Yeah.
brings something new.
Like I think Carrot could have easily joined the crew when like we had like Chopper was the newest person on the crew, you know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But now
Absolutely.
I just don't think she brings that same level of like change that this crew needs
Hmm.
to push all the way to Pirate King. I don't think it's Carrot.
Right.
But
But
it
we
is
do
thanks to this
also,
moment from Jinbei that we succeed in the plan
yeah,
of cracking this
yeah,
picture from
because
Lollipop Brook.
after Luffy announces himself, everyone's like, "Oh, okay, so just don't pay attention to anything that looks like Luffy."
Yeah.
And then Brook slides in.
Slides in with his
He's doing
stupid fake Luffy lollipop mask head.
and just kind of takes a rubber mallet to the picture of
Breaks
Mother
it.
Carmel, which
Yeah, which is
we're definitely getting
hilarious.
into.
Uh, and
Um,
oh, but we have is this? I'm
oh,
trying to
we have
remember. God,
oh
there's
man,
so many things.
there's so much.
There's
No,
too much
keep no,
shit, man.
go
Go
back.
back. What did I
You're going
skip
too
past,
far.
man? I'm
You're
trying
going
to.
too far,
Did
bro.
I?
We gotta
Oh,
talk about
you're
the fucking
right.
pin smokes.
I yeah, but I was thinking that the scene with Sanji was first, was before the flashback.
Come on.
There's too much shit. I just don't want to.
Look, we're gonna
Okay.
try to keep this one brief. It's not gonna work.
Um, we get the reveal to the Vinsmokes about
About what
the
Big
true
Mom's actual
real
plan
plan
was with
was,
them.
and Vinsmoke Judge is devastated by this, which is very
He
odd.
is
It's
crying
really
like a
strange.
little bitch.
He's crying like a little bitch, exactly what I would have said. And it's
And
strange.
you can see Reiju, well, you see just be looking at his sons, being like, "Why are they so happy and laughing?" And then Reiju's like, "You took their emotions.
Yeah, like this is
This is
you did
your
this.
fault."
And it's like this
You
moment that maybe for the first time Judge is realizing how much he's fucked up.
Yeah. I do
Um,
also just throughout this whole section, this whole part, you just get these tiny little one panel pages of Morgan's going, "This is big news,"
yeah, this is big news.
and I love him so much for it.
Um,
Um,
but I
you
just,
have
I mean, you keep
oh
talking.
man, yeah, I mean you have these panels of Judge with this, though, the only member of his family who still has his emotions, who can feel this sort of despair.
Yeah, and she
And
smiles because she's glad that their evil
yes,
is over
yes,
with.
Reiju is happy
She's
for this
content.
to happen.
She's like, this is what we deserve.
Hmm.
Um,
And it's,
and
I
you
mean,
have
we're
everybody,
gonna get more
yeah,
into
you have
that.
everybody going all
Um,
out, sort of just desperately trying to get
just
Big
this
Mom
sort
to
of
snap.
this mad dash, trying to get her to realize what happened,
Yeah,
and then she does her scream.
and
Uh,
it is in this
oh yeah.
moment when everybody's distracted by Big Mom that Blackleg Sanji rescues the Vinsmoke family
Hmm.
in
Shatters the candy.
one of the best shots I think in this whole
Oh,
section
it's
of
so
Sanji
good.
on the table with both legs on fire, smoking,
Looking down
looking
on
down on
Judge.
Judge, who looks shocked.
Yeah.
Also,
It's
Chopper
so
is
good.
there.
Yeah, also Chopper is here putting the earplugs into the to
Yeah,
Vince Smoke's ears.
Chopper is really funny in this shot, but like it's such a killer shot of Sanji.
Right. He just has this aura about him
Yeah, like
of like
fully
this
back into his own, like fully back. I think
exactly.
as a crewmate, no longer being
No
held
longer
back by the
tied by
Vinsmokes.
any sort of, the Vince Smokes, Big
Yeah,
Mom, anything.
burning those ties away with saving their lives one last time, or one first
Yeah.
time maybe.
Yeah. uh but yeah, we then
We then
oh
move
my
into
god,
Big
we
Mom's
get
backstory.
straight into Big
Big
Mom's
Mom's
backstory. Oh
backstory.
my gosh.
Big Mom's backstory, which I think I'm also just gonna lump into most of my thoughts on Big Mom, if that's
Yeah,
fine.
I think that yeah, I think that's fair. We can talk about
This backstory
all
is
of Big Mom.
really interesting and really not what I was expecting from Big Mom.
Yeah.
Um, and I think yeah, I think this may just let me get into a bunch of the stuff I want to talk about. But we get into this whole backstory about how I guess she was abandoned on Elbath and then is
Mhm.
taken in by this supposed like nun basically
Mhm.
who
It's
has all
Mother
these
Carmel.
Mother Carmel who has all these orphans and she keeps them all safe here on Elbath and they're friends with the giants and everything.
Right.
And she goes on about this like ideal of this world of equality where everyone is treated as equal,
Mhm.
and it's so interesting to me, and this is going to get into one of my topics, that Big Mom gets this inspiration for her whole ideal and dream and plan from
Mhm.
someone who's lying to her.
Yeah.
Because Mother
I
Carmel is
yeah.
not a nun, she's a child trafficker
Yes.
who
Yes, she is.
sells children to the government so that
Mhm.
they can use them for, I presume, CP9 at this point in time, and
I mean,
CP0,
yes, they say. I mean,
or at least Cypher pull units,
yeah,
maybe.
in this, like, covert agents, but in this, you know, Carmel, when she's talking to the government, is like, she's fucking. This kid is insane. She could be fleet admiral.
Yeah, but she's bargaining with CP0. I think it's the
Yes.
guys that
Yes.
we saw in Dressrosa that are not Lucci and Kaku. I guess we didn't see
Uh huh.
Kaku, but we know he's there.
We heard Kaku.
And it makes me wonder if any of the CP9 people we know of are
Right.
from this
We're
like thing. Like, was Lucci in this? Because we know that Lucci
yeah.
was like a child soldier in the
Mhm.
military, in the world government.
Yeah.
Uh,
And if
which
any
is
of
really
them were from the
interesting.
House of Lambs,
But like maybe, but I mean, I guess they didn't come back to their home. But I don't know. But
yeah.
it's so interesting, and I think I'm gonna use this as a jumping off. So last time I didn't get to talk much about any sort of, sorry, okay, to preface this, for those of you who I guess don't want to listen to this is entering apolitical One Piece corner where we talk about how One Piece is not apolitical.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
so I want to talk because last time our discussion for part one, I didn't have a lot of time to really sit and think on the arc. But
Uh-huh.
in the, I guess, 2 weeks since I've started Whole Cake, I've done a
Yeah.
lot of thinking about what this arc sort of represents and
Mhm.
what it's trying to criticize. Because I think a lot of times Oda is criticizing something, especially when he's looking at these places and these interesting locations that are sort of under the iron thumb of a different ruler.
Right.
And I think it's easy to just sort of blanket statement that everything that Oda puts out is anti-fascist. Because a
Yeah.
lot of what is in One
Well,
Piece is
yes, because
anti-fascist. Because a lot of our
right.
biggest, baddest bad guys are fascistic, like Dofi or
Like,
like the
yeah, like
Celestial
Doflamingo
Dragons,
is a somewhat allegorical to fascism. The
fascism,
Celestial Dragons
and
are
like
somewhat
Celestial
allegorical,
Dragons
and it's
and
never directly. It's
Moria,
always
I think.
allegorical. So
Uh, but I
yeah.
think this arc is actually criticizing something different entirely. Um,
Yeah.
Specifically, I want to point to American liberalism.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I reached this conclusion as a result of a couple of different things that all sort of clicked together in my mind. And
Mhm.
part of this has to do. Last time I talked about my connections with Germa 66 and Xenoblade Chronicles, and how in Xenoblade a similar organization that has a similar like system to the way Germa has their like lab baby
Yeah.
soldiers,
Mhm. Mhm.
and how in Xenoblade, one of the allegories for that organization is to capitalism. And so I sort of
Right.
kept on my thoughts of Germa being capitalism, even though there's a lot of obviously German influence there with them, and I don't know exactly, I don't have a comment on what I think that's trying to represent. But I was trying to
I don't
think
really either,
when
but yeah.
what I was trying to think of like what, because like obviously a lot of those fascistic governments don't necessarily have a capitalistic system because they don't really
Mhm.
allow for anything to be free, let alone a market.
Right.
Um, so I was trying to think of something that could connect with the capitalism aspect that I had picked up on with Germa, and I kept going back to this idea that Big Mom has about equality,
Yeah.
and how it's this
This.
equality where you have to literally sell your soul for like a
Mhm.
month of your lifespan to live there for a year,
Yeah.
to get access to this fantasy wonderland capitalistic paradise, right?
Yeah. This, I mean,
This like
literally this Disneyfied, like,
Disneyfied
utopia
faux
where,
utopia where
yeah,
everybody's equal, but only if
quote
you're
unquote. Everyone
paying
is
but only if you're
everyone is
paying Big
equal,
Mom, and only
right?
if you're not a giant.
Right. And only if
Um,
you are equal, but also still under
yeah, or at least still under. And so
the
I just
Big Mom pirates and the
and so I made
the
this connection to American liberalism
mhm.
of like this preaching of equality, but only if you're not the other, and only if
Right.
you're raising prices, like raising
Oh
value,
yeah, only yeah,
producing value.
exactly. If you produce value.
Not like an actual belief in equality similar to, before I had mentioned what differentiates Sabo from Big Mom last time. And I think this is where the difference is
Right.
lies, is that I think Sabo probably, and my understanding probably the whole of the revolution, is pushing for that true equality as opposed to this sort of capitalistic idea of what equality is. And I think
Hmm.
it's interesting that Big Mom gets this origin for this idea that I think turns into this American liberalistic esque environment from a lie from somebody else.
Right.
And so then she ends up, in her own way, believing in that lie but perpetuating her own. And it is this
Right.
endless cycle of equality with an asterisk on it.
Hmm.
And I think that's sort of similar to what you see with American liberalism a lot of the time.
Right.
Uh, and I think
Because
that's what
like
Ode
you
is going for here. At least that was
right. And
my read of
I
this
think
section.
you're right on the money. I think that there is so much of this arc that reads as like a critique of neoliberalism, especially in America, with the sort of like you have a two-tiered like sort of labor system um with the homies and the regular people, and I guess then the Big Mom Pirates being the owning class.
Right.
You have, the violence of the state being agreed to and consented to for the sake of quote unquote safety. However, that safety is only from outside threats. It is not from inside threats, like Big Mom herself.
Exactly.
You see the people of Nut Town be like, we pay for safety. We
Yeah, we pay our
we
lifespan
pay
every
our
year, and she still destroyed our
and she
our
still
home.
destroyed our entire town, our entire island. And so you have this sort of like you have this idea of violence being agreed to by the people for the sake of this faux safety that then gets taken away that can be taken away at any moment if you're either uncooperative, if you are seen as a rebellious force, or even just on the whim of the owning class,
Exactly.
aka Big Mom. And
Yeah, my thoughts
it
exactly.
kind of parallels a little bit like this arc, as well as Dressrosa, parallel a little bit just the actual world of One Piece, where you have the celestial dragons all at the top who get to do and say whatever they want, um, without any consequence. Wait, what happened? Oh,
I don't know. You're
sorry,
good.
my cat was playing on my keyboard. Um, yeah, like I think it's super interesting the way that Oda is choosing um, to parallel these sort of political ideals, um, through his story and through these emperors and warlords.
Yeah, I 100% agree. So moving out of a political One Piece corner,
One Piece is no longer political. If
back
you
to
want to,
One Piece not being political anymore. Uh,
it's funny Gum Man time again.
funny Gunman time. I'm gonna skip through most of the events of Lin Lin's backstory, and I want to talk about the end of it,
Okay, yeah.
where she has her
Um,
birthday.
she has the best birthday
She
ever,
has the
dude.
best birthday ever, and the cake is so delicious and a little crunchy.
Yeah, and
Um,
she's crying so much because it's so good she can't even see through the tears.
Tears, yeah.
Where'd everyone
Where'd
go?
everybody go?
Dude, she
Um,
fucking eats everyone.
Dude, she fucking eats everybody.
She fucking eats
Uh,
everybody.
and so this brings me to the other main thing I want to talk about with Big Mom. And, I do this every time we get to one of these arcs. I like to relate our main antagonist, which in this case I'm going to say is Charlotte Linlin and not Katakuri, um, back to Crocodile.
Yeah,
Because I think more than any villain we've had, I think Linlin differentiates from Crocodile the most.
I would agree.
Because I think when you look at Crocodile, Crocodile is sort of defined by being a schemer and a planner and having all these contingencies, and obviously all that shit goes to the bed, like it all gets messed up by Monkey D.
Right.
Luffy. But he is like a very intentional thinking force. And I think you
Uh huh.
see similar things. You see it with Eneru, you see it with Moria, you see it with Dofi, you see it with Caesar, you see it with Hody even.
Right.
Um, but Big Mom is not that kind of villain all the time.
No.
She can be,
Right. She can be,
but
but
at
she
her
seems to
most
have
dangerous, Big Mom
this
is
sort
a
of
force of
split
nature.
personality, which I think is gonna, which I want to get into with like her childhood trauma and stuff.
Yeah,
But
but I
yes, she
think
is a
that
force of
she is a
nature.
force of nature villain, which is very different than what we've experienced before. And I
I
think
want
that is
to.
an
Oh,
intentional choice to make this is a departure. Now we're dealing with an emperor.
right. I think it's so intentional that the first emperor who we're actually facing down, is this different kind of villain, especially with. I want to draw that parallel of that sort of force of nature back to our captain,
Right.
Monkey D. Luffy. I think that it is so interesting that this person who is the first emperor, the first person who is actually making their real run at Pirate King. You know, we've had Moria, we've had Crocodile who dream of being Pirate King, but they don't have the sort of plan or like any momentum towards that yet. This character, however, is an emperor. They have a road poneglyph, and they are more like Luffy than any other villain we have faced yet.
Exactly. They're hungry. They're dangerous. They
They're
don't.
dangerous.
They
They
don't.
are a
They
force.
don't
They are a
always do a
force of
lot of
nature,
thinking.
which I
But
think we
I
have.
think it's a
I,
really
I don't know if I've
interesting.
said it, but I've always considered Luffy to be a sort of force of nature,
I can.
or you know,
I would agree with that. I
yeah.
mean, he did his most thinking ever this arc, but even then, he's
This
still
is
not
true.
thinking a
He,
lot.
yeah.
Um, but I think it's really interesting, and this is sort of, I guess, in a way, a prediction for what I think is going to be like with the other warlords, or not warlords,
Emperors.
emperors. My apologies. And this also builds up the fact that Big Mom is sort of an opposite to Whitebeard.
Right.
In that Whitebeard, what in the little time we saw him, he was a force of nature too. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
him moving his arm could shake the entire earth, you
Right.
know. But he was, more of a kinder, gentler force of
Mm-hmm.
nature towards those he cared about, whereas Big Mom
Yeah.
seems to have no distinction. And so I think we're going to see a progression from
Mm-hmm.
pure force of nature with Big Mom into pure schemer with Blackbeard.
With Blackbeard. Yeah, I agree.
And I do think that all of these emperors, just sort of due to the nature of how powerful they are going to be
Mm-hmm.
forces of nature.
Yeah,
But I
absolutely. Like
think
every single one of
from a
them has
character
that sort of
perspective,
aura.
I think that we will get closer and closer to a more of a schemer type character. So
Mm-hmm.
I think Kaido will maybe be closer to force of nature but moving towards schemer, and then Shanks would then be closer to schemer but still a force of nature, and then Blackbeard would be a full-on schemer because that's what Blackbeard does best.
Right. He is,
Um,
he is fiction's greatest schemer.
and so I think progressing through that is sort of what we're going to see with the Emperors, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that's also interesting in that I don't know if this is necessarily true, but to me it seemed sort of implied that Big Mom is the weakest of the Emperors.
I mean,
Because, or at least she is not confident enough that she can take on Shanks or Kaido.
right. Yeah. It seems
So
my
at
my
bare
read of
minimum,
it is that they are
they're in
at
a
least
deadlock.
right. That's my read of it is that they're more in a deadlock of like, and if any single one of them were to attack the one of the others, it would leave both sides weak enough for the third slash
Fourth,
Blackbeard
yeah, for the other
to
two to come in and
to
sweep them
swoop
out.
in and take them out.
Right.
So it seems that they are all kind of deadlocked in this
Yeah.
sort of balance of this sort of uneasy balance of power.
But I just
Um,
think it's really interesting that we have this mountain movingly strong character
hmm
who does not believe that they are strong enough to take on Shanks or Kaido.
Right,
And it
right,
to
yeah.
me makes me think, what the hell is Luffy gonna do to Kaido? Like, how are we gonna beat Kaido? Like, we had to run away from Linlin.
From Big Mom, yeah.
And I mean, like, oh, we didn't have our whole crew, but like, would adding Zoro in really have been enough for us to take on Big Mom? I'm not really sure.
I
I don't
don't
think
think
so.
so.
I mean, look, I'm not a Zoro hater or anything,
we're also not power scalers.
I'm not power
So
scaler either. I think power scaling is funny to look at and not really to do.
yeah,
But if anybody's gonna take on Big Mom, it's gonna be Luffy,
yeah.
and Luffy's here. We have Luffy, you know,
And he is running.
and he is running. And maybe it's just that Luffy's whole mission was just to get Sanji back and leave because he's more worried
Right.
about dealing with Kaido because he doesn't want to, leave Law out to dry and leave the Minks out to
Hmm.
dry. But also, I don't know. I mean, he wasn't really willing to run away from Fujitora, so
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that he's not ready to run away from Big Mom,
Right. Or fight Big
or
Mom.
not ready to fight Big Mom. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, I keep mixing up my
But yeah,
words.
so we get a little bit more of Lin Lin's backstory with the head chef
The head chef,
Spruceton
yeah,
kind of finding her on this island that they had all moved to, which we find out later is what becomes Whole Cake Island. Um,
yeah.
and that Big Mom, I guess if you eat someone with the
The
devil
devil
fruit,
fruit,
you get
you
their
get their
devil
devil fruit
fruit,
powers. I
which
guess
seems,
you get turned into the devil fruit. I guess I don't know.
I guess. But yeah, so Big Mom gains the soul fruit from Mother Carmel because she ate her,
Yeah,
which is really fucked up.
yeah. Very very fucked up.
um, but yeah, so we have this sort of it's again interesting that we are coming back to this idea of what makes these monsters monsters, and it is always someone else. It is always someone else trying to use their power, just like Treble and
Yeah,
Dofi. You
nature
have
and
this
nurture,
idea
not
of
just one or the
nature
other.
and nurture making these forces of nature, these monsters.
Yeah,
With Streusen, I mean, it was the same thing with Mother Carmel as well. She wanted
yeah.
to use
She wanted
Linlin
to
for her
use Lin Lin
power.
for her power to get a bunch of money.
Right. Streusen wants just power, and is seems to be content with being this sort of like in the shadows, like controller of Linlin.
Yeah,
At least in the beginning, at the current moment, he's just like the head chef, but you know, was and I mean, like, look, I don't want to get too much into it. Dude fucking groomed her. He was
yeah. Definitely a little bit.
definitely groomed her. That's it. Streusen fucking sucks. We hate this guy.
Yeah,
But I just think it's so interesting that every evil monstrous person, we get to see the reason and the person who pushed them to that.
yeah,
And it's very similar to what we get with Luffy at the very beginning with Shanks, where
yeah. If you're
if
pushed
Shanks
in the
hadn't
right, like
been
if Shanks has been not there, like if Luffy had been directed by someone like Treble, imagine what
right,
kind of monster he could have become.
what exactly,
But
and you
maybe
just I
Luffy's
think it's so
character is too
interesting.
strong for that anyway. I don't know, but
Who knows? We
we
move
move
forward. We're gonna move
forward.
forward.
We move forward. The plan to take out Big Mom goes to shit.
It does not work.
uh,
Who could have guessed this?
and so everything sort of goes to shit. Germa 66 gets their raid suits and gets to launch into action, which is another awesome panel.
It's really sick.
With like the
I like
Super
look. I
Sentai
like
style text is really cool.
these guys
Um,
suck, but like
Look, they suck and they're
I
evil, but
fucking
also
love
they're
Power
Power
Rangers.
Rangers. Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, you made them
Yeah,
Super Sentai characters. I can't not smile when I see
I
the
can't
text.
not
Okay.
like them a little bit.
And
But
so we make our big escape into the Big Father.
into the Big Father, dude, every time we get more on the fucking castle fruit, it uh reinforces that it is my favorite fruit in the series. I think this shit is so cool, bro. It's just so sick. The fucking full body rook or whatever it's called, Big Father,
Yeah, it's so awesome.
turns into a giant castle. It's incredible.
Yeah, a giant castle with a face, and so we sort of we get into the Big Father, and we're like, okay, we need to come
Hmm.
up with a new plan right now, because
Right
Big
now.
Mom is about to kill Beshi in Big
Hmm.
Father mode because she's just breaking into it.
Hmm. And
Um,
we get Germa deciding to essentially sacrifice themselves
yeah, they're
to let everyone else escape, which I love.
yeah.
We gotta talk about
We
this.
got to talk about this. This is one of the best moments in the whole arc. I think you will probably have more to say on this than I do. I think you have a lot more to say about Sanji than I do, even though I do quite like
Probably.
Sanji during this arc. But we have this section where they're preparing, like Germa's preparing, like we're just gonna go out there. And a judge looks to Sanji. He's like, "Why did you save us?
Hmm.
We fell into the enemy's trap. That was our fault. We fucked up. Why did you save us?"
I want to just pay a little bit of attention to the paneling here. In that, again, Sanji is placed in the panel above
Yeah,
Judge in all of these
yeah,
scenes,
framed above Judge in all
above
these shots.
or even.
Yeah, because my father would be sad if I were still fixated on the childhood hatred from my past, and I could never look him proudly in the eye.
Ugh.
Hell yeah.
And I do wanna uh, mention a small callback to this "Don't catch a cold" line from Zeph, because it was pointed out to me that the when Sanji is at his lowest, when he's out in the rain after hearing Pudding, is the exact conditions in which someone would catch a cold,
Yeah,
which kind of broke me a little bit.
yeah.
But yeah, Sanji telling Judge that my father would be disappointed
Pointed
in
me
me.
if I let you die
Yeah,
because I still had
I
hatred in my
would
heart.
I wouldn't be able to look my father in the eye.
Yeah, he would be astonished that I turned into such a small man that I would laugh off the death of my own family. I'll be damned if I lead a life where I can't stand tall and look him proudly in the eye.
Goddamn.
Vinsmoke Sanji died at sea. That's what you wanted, remember? You are not my father, Vinsmoke Judge. Ugh.
Again, I want to point out that he says here, "You are not my father," Vin Smoke Judge. He says nothing to his siblings
Yeah. Holds no
because
resentment towards them because they're
he holds
victims
no
just like he
resemblance
is.
because they are all every single one of them is a victim of Judge's abuse.
It's just
So
such
I
an
do,
it's such an awesome moment. It's such a great
it's
moment for
incredible,
Sanji to truly be like past these guys.
right?
Like Sanji at this point Sanji is bigger and a bigger deal than these guys are, really.
Absolutely.
He's certainly, I mean, these guys don't even have bounties for what we're aware of,
I mean, they were
you know?
aligned with the world government,
I guess
so
so. But, they're also like attacking the North Blue or planning to. So,
yeah. Um,
but
but yeah,
I love it. It's really great.
it's just incredible.
It's such an awesome
I don't have
moment.
a whole hell of a lot to say about it. Just like because it's kind of all laid out there for you. This is Sanji taking back his autonomy from his abuser,
Yeah.
telling reversing the line of that Judge said to him when he was trying to escape of don't ever tell anyone that you're my son. Now Sanji gets to tell him
Don't
you are
ever tell
not
anyone
my
you're my
father,
father.
and it's just
It's
incredible.
it's incredible. And so they charge out to go save. And
Yeah.
they try and play it off all cool. I do not need help from a failure.
Hmm.
And I like that Sanji stops Luffy, even if only for a
Right.
little bit, um, by telling Luffy this is their way of making amends.
Yeah.
Um, and then immediately Luffy and Sanji both jump out at the
Both
same time to,
both jump
to
out to
block
go
an
fight the
attack,
mom.
and they both go, "Why did you jump out? You said we weren't supposed to fight."
I love them so much.
they're so great. And so thanks to Caesar Clown, sorry,
Sorry,
Gangster
Gangster
Gastino,
Gastino.
Gangster Gastino, my favorite character. We make our grand escape.
Hmm.
And then we learn a little bit more about some of these people who were messing around. I skipped over this before with the tomate box, but this guy knocked this tomate box off of the chateau.
Yeah,
And we
down
learned that Stussy,
Stussy.
still not a fan of the name, uh, the Queen of the Pleasure District, is a member of CP0,
Yeah.
which I did
Yeah,
not
she
see
is.
coming at all. I don't know, I just sort of assumed none of these characters were going to be all that important, but I mean, a member of CP0 I think is sort of inevitable to be important,
Yeah,
especially since
right.
this is a new character. Like, this is not an old member of CP9, which to
Right,
me
yeah.
implies that there are probably members of CP9 who were not cut out for CP0.
Yeah,
Um,
I personally I don't think that the Chapapa guy or the Yoho
Chapapa
Ho
or
guy
the Yoyoi
are
guy,
gonna be
but
yeah, the
like,
Yayoi guy.
is it just Lucci and Kaku? But like, Spandam got into CP0.
Yeah,
And he's not even like a leader position. I think 'cause it seems to me that Lucci might be
maybe
the
it's
leader.
just Spandam's nepotism again.
Maybe that, or maybe Lucci brought him along just because Lucci wants to fuck with him, which I kind of
Yeah, that might be
appreciate.
that honestly could be it.
Maybe the most likely outcome. But we have a new member of that group, and
Yes.
I'm so interested to learn more about CP0 and what they're doing and what they're trying to accomplish.
Hmm.
And why did they want the Tamate box? Did they want the drug thing that was in it, maybe?
I mean, it will. I don't
Did
think
they
that they
even
would
know that
know
that
what was in
existed?
it. I think they would just have heard legend of the
Like
Tamate
some legendary
box,
weapon in the
and it's
box?
it's some sort of legendary treasure from the Fishman Island. And so probably was just like, I mean, if it's here, I might as well try to get it.
Yeah, I also love that Big News Morgan is trying to snoop on this conversation, and she just knows he's there, which may be like an observation hockey kind of thing, but
I
who
mean,
knows? It
probably
could
if
also
she's
just
a
be that
part of
she's like,
CP0.
it also could just be that she's good at what she does and she doesn't even need it.
Yeah,
He is big news after all. He's hard to
he is
miss.
big news.
Um,
Um,
and so we
but
have
Luffy
we have some
Luffy
more
goes Gear
clashing.
4
Luffy goes
against
Gear 4 against
Big
Big
Mom,
Mom, and
and
he
it doesn't work at all.
no, it doesn't do anything to her. But he goes on this whole, he threatens Big Mom, but he's like, I'm gonna come back and beat you once I've finished
Right.
Kaido. Once Kaido's dead, I'm coming for you.
Once Kaido's done, I'm coming for you.
Um, sort of try and move a little bit quicker, and then everything's going bad. Like we're all in a bad position. Katakuri stops Caesar. Luffy's like out of juice. Big Mom is approaching rapidly. Boom!
And the fucking
That
Tamate box
that
bomb that we
bomb
knew
that
of.
Hody put in there,
No, that
or the
the
Go
Hody
government.
didn't put it in
Yeah,
there.
I thought Hody
The
snuck it in there after he stole it.
No, it was the ministers.
Yeah, I guess they put it in there. I don't. Why did they do that? I don't even remember why they did that. Because Hody already
I
stole it
don't.
out of the stuff from there,
Yeah,
right?
well, because when they realized that the stuff was gone, they were like, "Well, I guess we're gonna put a bomb in here." For some reason,
But the
I don't
bomb
know.
goes off,
The
which ends
bomb
up
goes
which ends up
off.
saving our whole crew.
Yeah.
As the chateau begins to fall.
Hmm.
Uh, to which
And
Beshi exclaims that the Big Mom pirates are ruined.
right.
Fool that he is.
And we have fucking Strusen, this bitch
Strusen,
ass,
who
turning the chateau into actual
real
cake.
cake so that nobody
To
dies.
Yeah.
And we split up from Beshi, and then after all that excitement, Big Mom goes into hunger pangs,
Oh man.
and things get a whole lot worse
Uh huh.
for everybody involved.
For everyone. This is just really bad
Really
for
bad. It's
everyone.
bad for the Big Mom pirates. It's bad for the Straw Hats. It's bad for the innocent people of Toto Land.
Hmm.
It's just bad news because that wedding cake doesn't exist anymore.
No.
Um,
Um, she kills another one of her sons in
that
a
is
hunger
true.
pang. The cream guy.
I
We get
Cream Guy is
dude.
still in.
I
King
I'm
Bomb.
King Von my goat.
King Bomb, my
Why
goat.
I love Oda's ability to make these tiny irrelevant characters like emotionally resonant.
Yeah,
He had
immensely insignificant characters.
no reason for King Bomb to be shown with his fiance,
His
but he
fiance,
just does it.
and the fact that Nami maybe is actually emotional that King Bomb is alive, or maybe is
Right?
putting on crocodile tears to make him feel bad,
Yeah.
is very
I don't know,
funny.
it's so good.
And so they take King Bomb to sort of run away from Big Mom
Hmm.
because she's after them because stupid Candyman that I hate.
Yeah, because Pero Sparrow was like, the Straw Hats, they have your
No,
wedding
they
cake.
took
You
your
gotta go
wedding
get
cake. They
them.
stole it. You gotta go get them. And she's like, if you're lying to me, I'm gonna kill ya. And then she goes after the Straw Hats.
Right. She,
Which leads to a lot of really cool action stuff that like I want to talk
yeah.
about, but we just don't have the time to talk about all this action stuff. You know,
I think the only thing that I want to talk about from this section is Nami's uh gaslighting, girl boss, and gatekeeping
of Zeus.
of Zeus. Just feeding Zeus the thunder clouds, and getting Zeus somewhat on our side.
Yeah.
We know by the end of this, Zeus is with Nami
Yeah,
still,
Zeus is with Nami still, which is hilarious.
which I think is such an interesting power up for Nami to just
Is
have
steal
Zeus.
Zeus from Big Mom.
Yeah, it's great.
An
Which like
intercut with
also is
this
like if
action.
we So like if we kill Big Mom, does Nami get nerfed?
I guess so, but Luffy doesn't kill anybody, so
True.
that would make him a bad pirate.
Right. Pirates don't kill people.
But intercut with this, we get different scenes of Pudding meeting up with
Yeah.
the Big Mom pirates and Chiffon specifically because she wants to help her fiance before Big Mom kills all of his friends.
Do we want to get into full pudding talk now, or do we
No,
want
I
to?
want to save full Pudding talk
Okay.
for the moment.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
but I really love that Pudding comes around in this section because
Oh, I mean, yeah.
I went
It's
from a
incredibly.
loving Pudding to hating Pudding back to loving Pudding.
I want to point out that because I'd seen some people be like, well, what the like when I've been watching like people's reactions to this section, like it's weird that like Luffy wasn't able to tell because like he's normally really good at reading people like off first impressions, but he was able to tell. He could tell that Pudding was a good person
Yeah,
from the very moment that they met.
she
He
just
could
needed
just
to be shown kindness for once in her life,
right by the
which I will get
kindest man on the
into.
sea.
Which actually, that the whole that thing with her and Sanji, I want to talk about more later. Not in the sense of like the whole talk, but something else tangentially related to it that I'll
Okay.
probably get to that during the Katakuri fight.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so we continue to move through a lot more action.
Right.
A lot of it's really cool. I especially like getting to see Jinbei using liquids other than water. I think is kind of fun.
Yeah. Like the
Him
like
like
juice river.
juicing,
He
like
used
shooting
tea
soda at people.
earlier.
Yeah, is
Yeah.
cool.
It's really good. But
Uh,
we get
we have the awesome
Nami
awesome moment
using
with Nami doing
using
the Zeus
Zeus's
tempo.
like yeah Zeus tempo.
Zeus Breeze tempo is really cool. It's just
Hmm.
cool getting to see Nami get to do
Yeah,
action.
to be this sort of powerhouse now that she has this sort of
This like
this emperor's power.
Emperor's power for herself is
Hmm.
really nice because I have complained at length about how I feel that Nami has been sort of a sidelined character for a while now. And to be honest, I still kind of feel that way compared to
I
like someone like Brooke, for example,
Yeah, I do agree that like
who has so
Nami still
much.
isn't.
And like I like
It,
Nami a lot in this arc. I think she has great moments. I like her clashing with Big Mom. I like her
mhm.
getting this power up. I like that she is this sort of anchor back to the crew for Sanji.
Right.
Um,
I think it's harder for Oda to make these like compelling moments with Nami because like her dream is just to map the sea,
I mean,
which
I
isn't like
guess, but
an
like,
incredibly emotionally resonant dream. It also doesn't. She also doesn't have like the sort of themes of like what does it mean to be alive or what does it mean to be human, like you do with Chopper or Brooke,
per or like,
who are also somewhat like sidelined characters, but at least have these sort of emotional like ties.
yeah, I don't know.
And
Brooke, I'm
I
gonna
do
talk a lot
think that
about Brooke
her.
later, but
Oh yeah, we have a lot to talk about Brooke.
Chopper, I have for once I have not much to say about Chopper. Chopper
Yeah,
gets sidelined too in this arc. I like Nami more
yeah.
than Chopper in this arc,
Uh-huh.
but
But yeah, I think it's harder for Oda to like find that sort of emotional core of Nami for some reason.
maybe I don't know. Maybe he's too busy drawing with
Especially
one hand, but like I just want more from Nami,
I
and I feel
agree.
like she hasn't had a lot lately. And maybe it's just that like we have had two arcs of time skip, really like two big ones.
Yeah.
Or I guess Fishman Island is just showing off everybody's new stuff.
Hmm.
Chopper gets Punk Hazard. I guess Law gets Dressrosa. Like, there's not really a crew member for that arc, and then this arc is
Yeah.
Sanji. So you really haven't had time for a lot of the crew to have like a big arc in time skip, just
Yeah.
because of how long these arcs are. And some
Hmm.
characters have had better small moments than others, like Brooke or Frankie, as opposed to like
Right.
Nami or
And I mean
maybe
Nami
Robin
does
or
get a little
Zoro.
bit alongside Chopper and Punk
That's true.
Hazard,
That's true.
you know,
Which
the
I'll
kids,
get
but
into more of that later. But I'm
yeah.
still sort of on the boat that I want to see Nami do more.
Yeah, I
But this
100%
arc
agree.
this arc has been a huge step in the right direction, especially
Yeah,
after she was the only person who didn't get a cool action moment in Fishman Island, which I still
right.
think is strange that she's the only one that
It's
doesn't.
weird.
But I love getting to see this action. It's also just beautiful paneling when
Oh,
she drops this
it's
she drops
drawn
this
this
orbital
nuke.
laser.
Yeah.
Um, and then alongside that, while Nami is getting her cool action moment, we get somewhat of a cool action moment for Brooke and Chopper, where they're like, "Well, it's just us. We got to get the ship back. It's our ship.
Yeah. It's our ship.
It's our
And
ship. We got to protect it.
you
Even
know,
if the crew's
these
not
are
okay,
these
we
two
have
are
to get it back."
This isn't Zoro. These guys aren't the powerhouses of the crew.
Yeah, I mean, like, Brook and Chopper are no slouches, but they're not Katakuri strong, and Katakuri's on this
Right.
boat right now.
And so, yeah, Katakuri and Sparrow are
Pharaoh,
both on this boat.
and I'm willing to admit that both of those are stronger than Brook and Chopper, who are my two
Yeah,
favorites.
these
You
are
know,
two generals of the Big Mom Pirates.
pirates. Like these
Yeah,
guys are huge deals,
these guys are
but
big news.
they're big news. And Chopper and Brook, they hold their own
Are
for long enough. They get the
for a
job
long,
done.
yeah, absolutely.
Um,
Um,
we get
we get
some really fun interactions with Pudding. I just think Pudding's really
yeah,
funny in this section.
when Pudding comes to find the on, find the person who's the only one who could do this task to
Ask
do what only he could do.
do what only he can do, as he once told Sniper King.
Yeah.
Wonder whatever happened
And
to
I
that
love
guy.
this. I don't know. He's probably on Sniper
He's
Island.
probably on Sniper Island, which is in your
Yeah,
hearts, by the way.
it's in your heart, by the way. But yeah, no, I just love this bit from Pudding, of this like kind of murder tsundere that she
Yeah, this
turns
like
into.
crazy tsundere thing that she does, where she's acting like evil, and then she's like, "No, wrong, wrong, do it
And
again."
it's
And
like,
she's like, "I'm
I
sorry.
did it.
Oh, I
I
wish
fucked
I
up.
could. Oh, I messed up so bad. He's gonna hate me."
It's a great bit.
It's really funny. Um,
Um,
and so they get Sanji because they need the best cook in the world,
yeah,
and it's fortunate for them he's on the island right now.
yeah, it's so good. But yeah,
And
so
so they pick him up
they go off to Cacao Island
and they
to
create
make
their
this wedding cake.
yeah, they create their plan of like, okay, so this part of the crew is gonna stall Big Mom and draw her to the island, and then you guys are gonna go to that island and get the cake done, and then meet us in the middle in the sea.
Right.
Um, which is a really cool plan that they really do kind of follow through on completely.
Oh yeah, and I think it's really great that we get this sort of like we've seen Sanji kick ass, but we don't ever. It's rare that we get to see Sanji's like cooking ability be what is saving the crew. Like
Yeah,
this is his.
like a
This
lot
is
of the time the cooking is what happens off screen, or like
right.
as in like a
Like
panel as like a
this
comedy moment.
moment that is so core to Sanji's character is what saves the crew in this
Yeah,
section, and I think it's really just excellent.
yeah. This whole section's really excellent. I think just
Hmm.
on the whole. Um, and I love that Brook and Chopper they do a good job here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not
The
gonna
Sunny is
lie. I
our
don't think
ship.
that
I mean,
Sparrow and Katakuri are really
trying. Well, to be fair,
giving it their all.
Katakuri's not trying at all. He's literally just sitting there
Yeah,
watching. Parasparrow's not trying very hard because he thinks everybody's dead.
yeah,
Because he thinks that big shot
that
of lightning was not
was from Big
was from
Mom.
Big Mom, not Nami. But
Hmm.
they hold the ship long enough for
Yeah,
Luffy to get there.
yes.
And I love this
Um,
shot of Sanji with the "Let's flip up the cake
oh,
so good it'll knock Big Mom's lights out."
hmm,
Um,
which he does.
but I want to sort of
Um,
move a little bit ahead
yeah.
to
Uh,
a heartbreaking moment. And you know what? Last time, or I say last time as if Zoe didn't exist. Back in Dressrosa, I was willing to go out on my limb, and I was willing to say that I thought Kyros was my favorite character in that arc, and that I thought that you said that was sort of a hot take, and I'm willing to stand on that. And I think I'm willing to stand on my statement here that I think this scene and the aftermath of this scene with Pedro's sacrifice is my favorite part of this arc.
I wouldn't say that that's as hot of a take. I mean, not to say that Kira's being your favorite character is a super hot take. Like people love Kiros, but there's just so many incredible moments in this
Yeah,
arc that it's hard to pick one.
because
But
like
yeah,
I feel like
Pedro's.
it's hard to say that this is a favorite moment and like throw not have any of the Sanji stuff, but this moment I just think it's so good,
It's
and it and
it
it part of it.
has this it has this like, I mean, like he's talking about, these are the people who will bring forth the dawn or whatever. You one day understand why this was so important.
Yeah,
Talking to Carrot, like it has this sort of like almost prophetic gravitas to it.
yeah, and this is one of the moments that I have a lot of stuff I want to talk about with.
Yeah.
Because first of all, I mean, just the whole his sacrifice is just heartbreaking, and he already tried to do this earlier in the arc. He was
Right.
going to blow
Exactly.
himself up before. But Pedro left with this crew with the understanding that he has almost no time left, and so
He
he
is
is going to
effectively like an
use that
80-year-old
time.
man.
He's going to use that time to bring them victory.
Right.
And he blows up. He
And you
blows
get
up. He
this.
saves the crew so long, and we get this flashback for Pedro, where we
Hmm.
get the understanding of the Nox pirates, where Perospero is making fun of it for meaning night as a negative
Right.
connotation, and we get a flashback within a flashback of Pedro as a child talking with Roger.
Yeah.
Roger says, "You're still on standby. I don't have much time left, so listen up. Everyone has their moment to shine. To me, Nox is synonymous with the moment before the dawn. If I can lay foundation for the dawning of the world that the men I look up to await, I will be happy. I'm certain I have enough time for that." Um, where do I
And
start? Where do I fucking start?
I want to actually want you to go back a little bit because I do want to
Okay,
talk. No,
please do.
back to the scene of the boom.
Oh, the
We
boom.
br- we bring the boom.
Not the right
I
time.
sorry I couldn't help. But no, we see here, where is it? Yeah, when he's talking to Carrot.
Yeah, one day you will understand the
Um,
true importance of keeping Luffy and his crew alive here so that their voyage can go on. Listen
yeah,
to me. You gotta keep moving onward.
and then
Boom.
boom.
Um, I don't know. Pedro's sacrifice really gets me, and there's so much to it for me.
Yeah,
Um, I think so I don't know what I want to start with. I think the thing I want to start with is that to me this is Oda breaking tradition.
yeah.
And there will be more of
This
this later.
is
I have more I want to talk about with Oda breaking tradition later. But Oda traditionally does not kill characters,
right. I mean,
especially
this
not
is
allies
somewhat
like this.
reminiscent of the
Of
moment in
the sacrifice in
Alabasta with
Alabasta,
Pell
exactly.
and
Um,
him,
just miraculously
cheating that.
being alive afterwards.
Right. And
Uh,
it cheapens the moment, and I'm so glad that this
so
moment
glad that
doesn't.
this moment does not get cheapened because Oda
Right.
recognizes that this is a thing that needs to happen,
Right.
and that for multiple characters in this section, Pedro needs to die.
Right.
He cannot be injured and come back. He has to die.
Hmm.
Um, I guess I'll just sort of move through and bring up the things that happen sort of in order. The first thing is Luffy,
Hmm.
because I think there's so many interesting ways that all these different members of the crew react
Yeah, react
to
to
this
this death
moment.
of the character.
And Luffy recognizes immediately, without
Hmm.
even without hesitation, without telling anybody, he realizes he sacrificed himself so that we can get away. If we don't get away, we throw it away.
Right.
And so
And I mean,
immediately, without
this is
hesitation, he
him.
tells the crew, "Go," and then he grabs Katakuri basically and throws himself with Katakuri into the mirror.
Right. And this is a direct consequence. Luffy's reaction and clarity here is a direct consequence of what happened to Marineford.
Yeah,
Luffy
exactly.
knows what this is because it has happened to him before, where he was Ace sacrificed himself for Luffy,
And Luffy
and
got paralyzed.
Luffy couldn't act after it, and it ended up with Jinbei getting a magma fish through the chest. It ended up with with so many other people getting injured on his behalf
Yeah.
that.
It to Luffy, he may even think it resulted in Whitebeard's death, you know?
Right,
So
exactly.
in this instance, Luffy is not paralyzed with fear. He's not paralyzed with despair. He recognizes that this sacrifice means something and that he is not
Mhm.
going to stop until it means what it is supposed to mean.
Until
Uh,
what Pedro wanted
yeah. I
is.
especially love "we're leaving. I'm the captain of this ship."
Hmm. And I mean, I mean, so much. There's there's
Yeah.
Jinbei, there's Brook, there's
There's Brook.
Carrot.
Yeah, let
Yeah,
me move
I want to go
forward.
back.
I well, hold on. No, I want to move forward here to
Oh.
this to where we really get into the meat of it,
Oh.
because it is after they escape that
Yeah.
Brook and Chopper are made aware of what happened, because Brook and Chopper were like
We're
frozen and
candified.
candified. And and I'm gonna start with Jinbei. I'm gonna start with Jinbei because it's in
Mhm.
this moment of this despair from Brook Or Brook
Right.
is like, it's our fault. We weren't strong enough. If we were stronger, we could have stopped Perispero, and then we wouldn't have had the ship get stalled, and then Pedro wouldn't have had to sacrifice himself. And Jinbei tells him to stop that.
Yeah.
Our foes are the ones who want to cry, or our foes are the ones who want to cry at the moment. We cannot allow ourselves to lose control. To which Brook lashes out. How can you be so cruel? Just because you spent the least amount of time with him doesn't mean. My point is that we cannot let our guard down now. That shoreline was a place of certain death. He understood what it represented, and was determined to sacrifice himself whenever necessary. And with this act, Pedro achieved victory.
Man. Ah,
Don't you hear
I'm not gonna
Pedro's
cry.
voice in your ears? Onward! Sooner or later, this land's pirate queen will catch up from behind us. Her fleet close in from us in any direction at all times. So until we can escape the influence of Big Mom's territory, we must not let our guard down. Don't you hear Pedro saying that? And the whole crew
Hmm.
is
This is,
invigorated.
I
And
mean, this is a,
this is also a direct consequence of Marineford.
yeah.
This is Jinbei getting to do what he did for Luffy and saving Luffy at the time to people who are capable of listening. If that makes sense. Because Luffy was
No, yeah.
so gone that he couldn't
I mean,
even
yeah.
listen to
Luffy
Jinbei's
was
guidance.
catatonic.
In this instance, these people are still held together enough that Jinbei can guide them back, guide them like he guides the ship and like he can guide the waters
Right.
back on track.
And I mean,
And it's
it speaks
awesome.
to what we talked about earlier. This is,
And this is what we need
Jinbei
Jinbei on the
immediately
crew for.
understood because he is experienced. You can assume that Jinbei has lost people before,
Yeah.
and in a similar scene, in a similar scenario, he
And
has
and a
this
similar
these
scenario comes
decades of
up later,
experience.
right? Like Jinbei
Yeah,
is not
exactly.
unfamiliar with this world and the way
Right.
that this world works, and he's able to help. I mean, Chopper is 17.
Yeah.
Chopper is they're all like the only one of these people that's not a child is Brook, really,
Rook.
compared to Jinbei
Yeah.
anyway. And
Right.
Brook has been so detached from life. And earlier, I had talked so much about Brook's really, and this is where I'm going to get into my talk on Brook. It's Brook time now.
Mm.
Last time we talked about how I thought it was so cool and interesting that Brook had this understanding of death to where he wouldn't plan for it because it's empty and meaningless.
Yeah.
But the person he was working with, Pedro, was planning with death in mind.
Yeah. Oh man, you're right.
And so, and in this section, I think this is the turning point for Brook. I
Hmm.
think Brook as a character is going to be fundamentally different moving forward
Yeah.
because death is not empty. It doesn't leave nothing behind, and it's not an apology, but it can be a victory.
Ooh.
And that's where I think we
Ooh.
get this moment with Pedro reshaping what death means to the guy who's dead.
Hmm.
Because and Brook is sort of an opposite in Pedro. Brook died and was able to get life back.
Right.
Pedro lived and had his life taken away
Right.
by
Oh
Big
man.
Mom. There are these opposites that had such a small amount of time bonding with each other,
Hmm.
and Pedro's death has such an impact on Brook.
You're right. Damn.
And then I was thinking, who else? You know who else died as a victory when they were out of time? Goldie Roger.
Man.
The influence on Pedro,
Yeah.
now
Oh my god,
influencing
dude.
Brook. And it's just such it's this beautiful, it's like poetry, it rhymes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's
And
fucking
it's this,
beautiful. I'd never even
and
thought about it like
I'm
that.
so interested to see how, because I had been so hyper focused in previous sections, including the first half of Whole Cake, in what does Brook have to say about death? Because he obviously knows everything about it, but what if he doesn't, right?
Right. Yeah.
And in this moment, he really doesn't.
Mhm.
And while
We've
we're on the
learned
topic of this,
what
I'm
death
gonna
can
move.
be.
I want to move into my talk on Binks's brew because I
Ooh,
think now is
okay.
the best time to talk about it because I'm talking about Brook anyway.
Yeah.
And so for the longest time, I hadn't done a lot of thinking about Binks's brew because every time I looked at it or listened to it, I was just like, okay, this is explaining what happens to Brook before we meet him, right?
Mhm.
And that is still the case. He leaves the town, he ends up a skeleton. right?
Right.
However, comma, I think there is a lot more to it than that now for Brooke
Yeah.
and for a couple other characters.
Mhm.
So I'm going to start with Brooke, in that I think it's interesting to note with the lyrics that and I'm gonna when I'm reading the lyrics, I'm going to refer to the Funimation translation. Um, but I have looked at also some of the things that I'm going to talk about relate to translations of the Japanese. So I'm not just going off of the translation of a translation that they used for the English dub. Um, but the first thing to note is that the last line of the song for the last verse is not "after all is said and done, you'll end up a skeleton." The last line is "so spread your tail from dawn till dusk upon these foamy seas."
Mhm.
Not ending up a skeleton. This is not the last thing that happens.
Right.
And so I was sort of thinking, my thought process is that Thriller Bark is the "you'll end up a skeleton," and then I think up to this moment has been the last line of the song. And
Ah.
now what I think is going to occur is that Brooke is going to work in reverse.
Mhm.
And Brooke is going to move from being a skeleton back to the start of the song.
Ooh.
Because it's at the start of the song where we have things like "bid farewell to Weaver's Town, say so long to Port Renowned,
Mhm.
sing a song it won't be long before we're casting off." And what is Brooke trying to do? What is Brooke's goal? Is to get
Well,
back to the start, to Port
right.
Renown, where Laboon is.
Damn, dude.
And the reason I want to get to the reason why I started
He's
thinking about
yo
books
yo.
Princess Brew.
He's cooking right
So there's
now.
the
I don't know what
reason.
to say because I'm taking it in.
So there's more to say about this Brooke thing, but I want to first imply why I got on this thought process about Binks's Brew and why I hadn't got on it before until
Mhm.
now, because it's not just me seeing this moment with Pedro's death as Brooke having a turning point in his character, which I think is turning from the end of the song and facing towards the beginning of the song now.
Mhm. Mhm.
But as I was listening to it, there's a specific line. Let me find it. Um, Our days are but a passing dream, everlasting though they seem. Beneath the moon we'll meet again, the wind's our lullaby. The moon, that's what
The
caught me.
moon.
The moon is what
Yeah.
caught me. Because it is, for one, the Nox Pirates.
Right.
For two, when does Pedro die? On the night of a full moon.
Mhm.
And then all this other
Moon.
stuff happens under the full moon, obviously the stuff with Carrot, which we'll get into later.
Uh huh.
And so I was like, that line stuck into my head. I was like, wait a minute, all this stuff happened under the moon.
Mhm.
And so then I was sort of thinking that okay, now we need to work backwards, and so Brooke needs next to do the sunny days, and then he needs to get to like the dawn, right?
Which we
Um,
keep talking about.
which we keep talking about. So now I want to talk about two other characters
Oh, all right.
in relation to Binks's Brew, and then at the end I'm going to loop back around to Brooke, I think.
All right.
The first is Goldie Roger,
Interesting.
because I think that the events of the song happened to Roger.
Hmm.
And my thoughts on this comes from the last line of the song, the one I read earlier. However, I'm going to go away from the Funimation translation and go to a translation of the Japanese, which reads vaguely something to the effect of "never ending, ever wondering, our funny traveling tale,"
Mm.
which can also be translated to "our laughing tale."
What?
And now there's a certain island at the end of this whole journey that may or may not be
Hmm.
called Laugh Tale.
Hmm.
And when you have like we'll meet again under the moon, waving our goodbyes, you'll end up a skeleton,
Mhm.
all these things, I was thinking like this happens with Roger too. And
Right.
now he is meeting Pedro again under the pale moonlight
Uh huh.
in
Oh,
whatever afterlife there is. That was my thought process.
dude.
And then, if you start thinking about Goldie Roger, you have to think about a certain other character, and that's Monkey D. Luffy, right?
Right.
And
Mhm.
so I think that Monkey D. Luffy is going forward through this song while Brook is going backwards.
I get it. I see.
Um,
Oh.
and part of that comes
Uh-huh.
from at the beginning, once again the line about Weaver's Town. So I did some digging about this. I saw some stuff that I thought might getting close to spoilers, so I backed away from that and I just looked at a few little things from what my understanding could be of Weaver's Town. So my understanding of it is that the original Japanese is effectively something along the lines of like a town where they weave silk,
Mhm.
which in some translations is just to home, like they just translate it to hometown. Sometimes it's Weaver's Town because it's like it's basically called like a silk town, which isn't really
Uh-huh.
like a term in English that you would use.
Right.
So on the one hand, yes, it's probably referring to silk. However, there is something other than silk that is made by weaving,
Ooh boy.
such as a straw hat.
Uh-huh.
So I think we start the song with the Weaver's Town. Goodbye to where we got the straw hat.
Mhm.
So long to Port Renown. Gathering up the crew. Day and night to our delight, the voyage never ends. And so I think we have these connections here of like we're at the moon with Brook. I think the next thing that's going to happen with Luffy is the sun. Is we need to
Yeah.
get to the sun. I think we've gone through a couple of the things before the sun with the events up to the story so far. And I've talked before. I talked way back in Skypiea, that none of you have a recording of, about how I thought that Luffy might be light.
Mhm.
And I think probably at some point I made some connection to Luffy being the sun or something sun related, right?
Mhm.
Um, and then I started thinking about different things with the sun in them, such as Jinbei has the sun on his chest, and as he's joining the crew, we're moving
Mhm.
towards Wano. Alongside that, you have the Kozuki clan emblem, which has the sun on it, I believe,
Yep.
or at least something similar to the sun on it.
Mhm. Mhm.
So
Yep.
I am thinking whatever the sun is going to happen in Wano.
Interesting.
I'm not sure if it's going to happen for Luffy and for Brook, and then Brook is moving towards the dawn while Luffy is moving towards the night, and then at the end, Brook makes it back to Laboon, and then Luffy ends up just a skeleton, right? Because I think hot take, Luffy's probably gonna die at the end.
Yeah, yeah, hot take. I don't think Luffy makes it to the end of the
Hot take,
story.
Luffy probably dies at the end with a giant grin on his face, I imagine.
Right.
Um, so I think Luffy is moving towards the end of his tail, towards Laugh Tale, while Brook is moving back towards Port Renown, where Laboon is.
Dude.
And also
I mean,
you
I don't
have,
I don't
and
oh,
you know,
there's more?
and with Weavertown being before Port Renown and singing songs of the sea, you have Brook after it's all over singing songs of a straw hat.
Ooh.
I rest my case.
Oh man.
I rest my case on Brook there,
That
I
is
think.
a lot that I am still taking in, but you definitely just cooked.
So that was all brought out of me hearing the word moon in Binks's Brew while I was listening to it like 3 nights ago at like 8 p.m. Um,
Oh Lord.
so I think that is most of what I had to talk about with Pedro's death.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean,
there's also Carrot, which we can sort of move back through the plot. We'll get to the Carrot thing when the Carrot thing happens.
yeah. Um,
I'm gonna hold off on
I wanna.
Katakuri till we
Yeah,
get
yeah,
really.
yeah. Let's hold
Let's
off. Let's
let's
hold off.
let's let's get into the other things that happened before the rest of the Katakuri fight. Before we get into the Katakuri fight, which I think both of us probably have a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
Cause holy shit, bro. You know what I'm
Cause holy
saying?
shit.
We move through more of the cooking stuff. Do we actually just get straight? No, 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 no. There's this
No,
constant
we get.
flipping back and forth
Yeah.
um between them, man. It's rough.
Mhm.
But we have this moment. This is actually the moment where I think if it wasn't any of the previous moments, the moment where Jinbei joins the crew again for the 20th
Right.
time, because we get to see
Oh, this
his
moment is so
role his
great.
role on the crew and what Jinbei can do that none of the rest of them can do.
Right.
Because
You know, he is the helmsman.
he is the helmsman. This is
You
quite
have
a
this
good
moment where
ship.
he's like, "This is a great ship
Yeah, this
with
is
a
quite a good
good
ship.
navigator,
Green Room is a yeah.
with a good
With a good
navigator and a good helmsman.
We've got a good
This
ship
craft is
and a good
invincible."
navigator. With a good helmsman, this craft is invincible.
Oh, and
Awesome! So
they
awesome.
they surf the Sunny through the crashing barrel of the wave.
Yeah, they surf the Sunny through a tidal wave.
Oh my god, it's just so sick.
It's just so awesome getting to see something that nobody else can do. Like this is Jinbei,
Exactly.
and Jinbei's a fishman. He has this intimate knowledge of the waves, and
Mhm.
paired with our wonderful navigator Nami, who kills it with the navigating during this whole section,
Right.
allows them to escape near death multiple times.
Mhm. Yep.
And
Um.
then Luffy tells them to break all the mirrors because they're about to
Right.
have a thing. And, Chopper and Brook and Carrot are like, ooh, I don't know. And then Nami just shatters it.
Yeah.
That's Captain's order. Now hurry. After
Oh my
Brook
god.
told him, or not Brook, Luffy told Nami that he can't focus on Katakuri because he's trying to protect the Sunny at the same time.
Mhm.
And they're like, okay, well, protecting the Sunny is supposed to be our job. Let him handle
Right.
it. Um, I'm just trying to. Did we just?
Look,
Is it?
there's a
I
lot of
think there's a lot of cutting back and forth. Okay, yeah, this is about when we get to the start of it. So Luffy gets messed up, a mean ass
yeah.
kick from Katakuri, and he
Mhm.
puts
I
on
mean, we
a
have
fake smile and he says, "Come back soon, guys. This will be over quick. I'm just gonna be bored waiting around.
yeah,
See you soon."
and you see this look from Jinbei, who knows
Jinbei knows. The rest of them are all like, "Yeah, Luffy," and Jinbei's like,
that kind of curry guy is kind of fucking strong, Luffy.
"Yeah, that Katakuri guy's a big deal, Luffy." But he believes in his captain. He wouldn't be doing all
one
this
might
if he didn't.
one might say that he's big news.
Katakuri is certainly big news. That's for sure.
All right, are we getting into
Um,
it?
I don't intend to. Well, I think so. I think we're into the Katakuri fight now.
All right.
This fight's fucking awesome.
This fight is by far, at least up until this point, the best fight that Oda has ever drawn,
Very
and
easily.
it's not even close.
Very easily. I think the only thing that gets anywhere close to this height is one part of the Doflamingo fight, not even the whole thing.
Right.
And then that one part, which is like 2 or 3 pages, is like this, but this does it for an entire volume.
Yeah.
So it's like not
What?
even like on the same level.
And I think it's interesting that in right after the arc where you have, or I guess maybe not right after, but after Dressrosa, where we have this idea of fruits that are like another fruit but just upgraded. We finally get supposedly what is the upgraded version
The Gum Gum fruit,
of the Gum Gum fruit, which is this Mochi Man.
the Mochi
He can
Man.
do he can do everything that Luffy
Luffy
can do,
can
but better,
better,
bigger, stronger, faster.
better, faster, bigger, more efficient, and it's awesome.
It's
It's
so
really awesome.
good.
Um,
Um,
and I think
I mean,
and part of that is that they're fighting in the mirror world,
yes, yeah, that, that
and
that
that
that is not lost
not lost
on me. That
on me either. And I think there's a lot here to Katakuri being a mirror image of Luffy.
yeah, this
Um,
sort of he's this honorable fighter, which I wouldn't necessarily call Luffy honorable in the same sort of way, in the same sort of like
I
how
don't
do I
know.
want
I mean, maybe. I think it's more that Luffy doesn't mind dishonorable things happening,
right, yeah,
but he doesn't
like
do it himself
later on,
out of the way.
later on in the fight
When
when Flampe
whatever
is like
whatever bitch face's name is, I don't remember her name.
is helps out. Luffy's
Katakuri
like,
is
what do you?
upset about that. Luffy's like, it
Yeah,
was my fault.
yeah,
You fight dirty in a
like
pirate fight.
because Luffy isn't a stranger to his friends helping him out during a fight.
Yeah.
Like that happens a lot.
Yeah.
So like
Um,
he just doesn't have that sort of like this sort of rigid view of like what strength looks like that is so core to what Katakuri's character
yeah.
is.
But Katakuri is really, really fucking awesome. I want to get into this first moment when he goes into his little, like, his mansion
Yeah,
thing.
I think a lot of the beginning of the fight can be kind of skipped over,
Yeah,
and
I
but
think the first
after,
thing I want to talk about is when he's eating.
yeah,
Um, because this is a moment that I think shows who Monkey D. Luffy is as a character. Is a little
huh,
microcosm of what makes Monkey D. Luffy different from every other person in this world.
hmm,
Because when this happens, Luffy shatters through this thing,
right,
and sees Katakuri at his supposed lowest, Luffy's response is, "Hey, we're not done yet."
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else's response, like the people from the Charlotte family, are like, "That's what Katakuri
What the?
looks like. What? That's so
What's up with his
stupid.
mouth?
What's wrong with his mouth? Why is he on his back? He's not perfect at all." And Luffy's
Right.
like, "I haven't surpassed you yet."
Yeah.
And I think I'm gonna get into this now. I think, and
Yeah.
this is sort of going a little bit ahead to the Katakuri backstory, which I'll talk more about later. But this is the thing I was talking about with Pudding, is that for this here with Luffy and Katakuri, Luffy I think is maybe the first person ever, except maybe Brule, to treat Katakuri as an equal.
Yeah.
Not regardless of the perfect, regardless of his mouth, regardless of anything. Luffy wants to beat this guy because this guy is a fighter and a presumably a dreamer like Luffy is, I think.
Right.
And Luffy is not distracted by him laying on his back,
Mm-hmm.
his like unhinged mouth jaw thing that's going on. Whereas like
Mm-hmm.
Katakuri has created this personality of like this, he is this perfect stoic warrior. He's stitched his mouth closed so that people don't see him with his unhinged mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And Luffy doesn't care about any of that.
Luffy doesn't give a shit.
Luffy doesn't give a shit about any of that, and
No,
I think
it's
that is why Katakuri is willing to fight Luffy on even ground this whole time.
right.
I think
Yeah.
part of it is Katakuri's own honor, but I think it is because this is the first opponent that has ever treated Katakuri as Katakuri and not
Mm-hmm.
as something else,
Yeah.
either some freak of nature or this perfect being or the
Mm-hmm.
most popular brother or whatever.
Whatever. I think it also. I was gonna get into this a little bit later, but I can get into it now. Because I think it is Katakuri's interaction with Luffy in this arc is maybe the most important thing about it. Because what does Luffy do in every arc? He is the person who is here to save and liberate the island. But he can't do that here because because of the way that that Toto Land is set up. The people here are not being oppressed without their own knowledge of it.
Right.
They have agreed to the oppression of Big Mom, and there's a little bit of pushback towards the end of this arc, but so Luffy can't punch Big Mom to make the island better, but what he can do is he can liberate Katakuri.
Exactly.
He can show Katakuri that he is not some weird freak, that he can show Katakuri, the respect as an equal, and in the same way that Sanji does for Pudding, which
Exactly
we're
what
gonna
I
get
was going to
into.
say. Exactly what I was going to say is
Monkey D. Luffy liberates Katakuri from his facade, his mask of perfection,
exactly. And
and which,
the exact same thing happens with Sanji and Pudding, with
yeah,
Sanji's kindness being the first person to treat Pudding like a normal person, the same way
right.
that Luffy is the first person to treat Katakuri like a normal person,
And
liberates both of them in this arc.
you have this through line of abuse from Big Mom towards her children.
Yeah,
You have her telling Pudding that she's a weird, disgusting freak for her third eye to grow out her bangs so that she doesn't have to look at it. You have Katakuri being relentlessly bullied because of his own physical, abnormalities. You have Brule, who was, a regular looking person who then got scarred, and then, as she grew up, became more of this like Wicked Witch sort of s looking character. And you can tell that Big Mom doesn't give a shit.
yeah,
She doesn't protect her children in any way. She in fact does the opposite. She reinforces their insecurities and the bullying and abuse that they go through. And when you meet someone from the Straw Hats who truly does, you know, believe in equality and this sort of like, Luffy's the type of guy to see a skeleton and go, "Dude, you're so sick.
he's so cool.
He's so cool. You gotta
He
be my friend now."
he asked every zombie on Thriller Bark to join the crew.
Right.
You
You
know?
this idea of like what real equality and what real love for people who are different than you looks like, which is the opposite of what Big Mom has. She has this childlike idea of equality, and which is just
Exactly.
everyone being like her.
Exactly. And connection that I just made because you were talking, something you said reminded me of how they respond to Chopper when they first meet him, is that Luffy thinks Chopper is awesome, right?
Right,
And he wants Chopper to join the crew initially, not because he doesn't even know he's a doctor.
right,
He just wants Chopper on the crew because he thinks he's awesome. And then on the opposite side, you have Big Mom, whose first reaction to seeing Chopper and Brook is, "Oh, I want to stick them in a book forever."
right. She has she like she doesn't actually care about this idea of equality from like a moral standpoint. She wants to collect these different races and these different odd creatures like they're fucking Pokemon
Yeah,
and put them in a book so that she can look at them.
exactly.
You know,
Uh,
that's why she has this obsession with the giants because it's the one thing that she can't have. That's why she paid Caesar to try to, create giants and so that everyone can sit at the same eye level for a tea party. She has this childlike idea because she never grew up,
yeah,
which we can get into more with a little bit later of Big Mom stuff. She never got the chance to grow up because she was stuck in that sort of childlike state where you know where she ate all of her friends and her mother.
yeah. When she had her what, like sixth birthday or something, or eighth birthday? I don't
Something
remember what it was.
like I think it's 8.
Like she has not really grown since then as a result
Right,
of all the things around her. She hasn't needed to grow up because she's so
right,
fucking strong.
exactly. And you have people like Struzan who are enabling that sort of
Exactly.
lifestyle, that sort of mentality for his own gain. Because if she were to grow up, she could realize that he's groomed her and like uh been controlling her from the background, and so it behooves him for her to not grow up,
Exactly.
you know. But let's get back into Katakuri. We're talking about
Yeah,
Big
let's
Mom.
get back into Katakuri. This fight is just awesome. There's a lot of really cool shit going on.
Yeah,
Um, it's hard to talk about
it
just like cool action shots. I think it's really
yeah,
interesting seeing Luffy become a smarter fighter, because
yeah,
a
I
lot of
agree.
Luffy's fighting throughout the series has been, I'm just gonna hit that guy even harder, and like
Yeah,
to an extent, even he's been doing that up to Dofi, right?
right.
Like the
He
plan to beat Dofi was, I am going to go into Gear 4 and instead of sustaining it, I'm going to load all of it into one big ass fucking punch.
Yeah, I'm gonna hit him harder,
I'm going
and
to hit him
then
harder, and it worked. And
yeah,
Katakuri is an antagonist that he is not able to hit harder.
right.
He needs to hit Katakuri smarter.
Hmm.
And he slowly gets there. He starts to figure out, oh, you're making, like, you're moving the parts of your body that are intangible so that there's just a
Yeah,
hole in your body when I punch with arm and hockey, as opposed to
he's
there
not
being.
a Logia type. He is a Paramecia type. He just is so sick with the observation hockey that
He
he
Yeah,
can
the future sight that he can
imitate.
dodge it, so that he can imitate a
Yeah,
Logia user. Um, and then
that
like
reveal for me watching the anime was like, what the
what?
what? Like
And Luffy
whoa.
like slowly strengthening his own
Yeah,
observation hockey is so
and I mean,
awesome.
and we get this little flashback at some point to his training with Rayleigh. Like, I've taught you all the basics, but like, for your hockey to improve, you need to have it pushed. You need to fight strong
Yeah,
hockey users.
you need to fight like him. You need to fight
Yeah,
somebody.
you need to fight people who are stronger than you to like awaken further levels of hockey, which we do. We do here.
Yeah.
We're fighting the billion
The
berry
real
man.
advancement in hockey happens during extreme use in battle. The stronger the foes you face with this power, the stronger you'll become with it.
Right.
I want to surpass him. I want to beat the Billion Berry Man at his best.
Yeah.
Also, side note, kind of makes me upset that we got introduced to Jack in the arc before this as the first Billion Berry character, because it would have been so much cooler if Katakuri was the first one we saw. Anyway,
Didn't even remember that Jack had a billion berry bounty. I'll be
yeah,
honest.
Jack has a Billion Berry bounty, I believe.
Katakuri is the first as far as I'm
Katakuri
concerned.
is the Billion Berry Man, though.
He is the billion berry man.
I want to just I don't want to skip past all this stuff. I don't have a lot to talk about with a lot of this stuff with like Shifon and stuff going on.
I mean, I want to talk a little bit
I
about
think there's a
the moment
moment
with
though.
Pound. I think
Yeah,
it's I
Pound
think
is good.
same thing I'm talking about with like King Bomb. Like Pound is such a nothing character, but he gives them this tiny little moment where he gets to see his daughter and his grandson for the first time, and you it just makes you the smallest bit emotional for this nothing burger of a character.
Yeah, for this nothing burger of a character, and I love the
Um,
line he had, like the when he's like the someone out there is watching you and they want you to succeed
mhm.
and be happy is
I don't
really
know where
is
it
really
is,
I
but
don't know
yeah.
where it is. That's the title of the chapter. I don't remember where it is though.
Hmm. And you
But
get the
it's
congrats
great.
on your wedding
Yeah, congrats
with
on your wedding.
Pez being happy and all.
Yeah.
Um,
Uh,
but yeah,
but yeah, I'm just trying
moving
to move. I'm
forward.
just trying to move into further into the Katakuri fight.
Hmm.
Um, but I think we start to get to yeah, we get to Carrot next
Oh yes, we do.
because tonight's a full moon, as I was mentioning earlier,
Hmm.
and so we finally get the explanation of this werewolf shit.
Which
Um,
I mean, you did predict back in
I,
Zoe
I,
that they would be werewolves.
werewolves or something like it. Um, she turns into a Sulong by glancing up at
the,
the full moon,
the Moon Lion.
the moon lion. Her
And I mean,
hair goes white, her eyes go red, and
this form
she
is just
is so sick.
it's just pure like terrifying beauty.
Yeah,
She is stunning, and it is with her like silhouetted against the moon. Oh my god, I love
it's
this shot
really
so
really
much.
awesome. And the connection that I made, like I love that this is her making Pedro's
Yeah, this
sacrifice
is
a
right,
victory. Like this is her involvement in that is using this power that Pedro taught her how to wield
right.
to stall this fleet so that the Sunny can make it,
Hmm.
which is really cool. And my connection with this that I made a connection on, and we'll get more into this when I talk about my new reshaped thinking about how post time skips arcs are reflecting pre time skip arcs,
Hmm.
is that because a lot of this arc is Water 7 Ennie's lobby,
Right.
and this is Monster Point.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
This is it is a power that is difficult to control, makes them lash out against anything they see if they lose control, and is physically exhausting and potentially dangerous for them, just like what Chopper was doing back in Ennie's lobby with using the Rumble Ball too many times.
Right.
And it's not like a huge thing, and I love that the Chopper is also like, he's this sort of this big brother figure for Carrot, and so
Hmm.
he gets to sort of be proud of her like kicking ass, which is kind of
Right.
fun. But I think
But
it's an interesting
we've already
parallel with Monster Point, I
yeah,
think.
and Carrot has already done the training to control this power,
Yeah.
and you can tell she has her little hee hee,
Yeah.
where like she does her little face to show that this is still Carrot. This isn't
Yeah.
straight up a monstrous version like we see with
With Monster
Peckham's
Point.
later on.
Yeah, or Peckham's. But it's like an in between of where Chopper started and where Chopper's at, you know?
Right.
Cuz like Chopper is not immobile after he uses Monster Point now. He just it does it
Yeah.
for 3 minutes. Or actually,
Hmm.
isn't he immobile? I say
I think
that. I
he
think
actually
he's
is
immobile.
still.
I think he is immobile. But like
But
he
I love
has
this moment from Daifuku. He's like, "You can't fight us all," and she's like, "You know what? Good point." And just steals the wheels off of all their
yeah,
ship.
good point. What if I just made it so your ship don't work?
Yeah.
Uh which
Also,
is great.
don't think about the fact that Brooke is light enough to run on water, but then carries Carrot across the water. Don't think about it.
Don't think about it. Hey, it's the same thing happened in Thriller Bark. Just don't think about it. When he was
It's
light enough to jump up the side of buildings while also carrying Monkey D. Luffy.
yeah.
Um, but this whole action scene is great. It's just
Oh,
I don't know, great action
I got
scenes.
something to talk about back there.
Oh, please do.
Because this is
Oh yeah,
another moment of
I'll let you talk, Sanji.
Sanji's beliefs, his convictions being a restraint on him because of his relationship with Zeph.
Yeah,
Zeph is the one that we had back in Ennis lobby. We had his non-willingness to fight what's her name?
the stupid bubble lady. What is her name?
The
Khalifa?
bubble the bubble. Yeah, Khalifa. And in this moment, we have Sanji arguing with Beshi
Beshi. I think it's Beshi.
about him wanting to put poison into the cake to kill Big Mom, and Sanji saying, "Absolutely not. I will not allow you to do that.
Yeah.
This is his pride as a cook. He's going to defeat her with flavor, not with some cheap trick like poison.
Yeah. When someone is hungry, you feed them.
Yeah, his customer." And I
Exactly.
think it's so powerful that you see Big Mom start to like starve as she gets closer,
Yeah, she starts getting like emaciated. It's
because
really cool.
with the emotional impact that has for Sanji, he's this is the culmination of all things that make Sanji who he is, which we get later on with Judge screaming at him, and then Luffy being like, "Why is he saying all the best things
Yeah,
about you?"
why is he listing all your best qualities?
This is the core of Sanji. He is a cook. He he loves women, and he is the left hand man of the Pirate King, of the future Pirate King.
Yeah. It's great. And I love that
It's so
it
good.
is also sort of an inversion of the moment in Enies lobby where like Sanji's inability to attack Khalifa is a great failure and could have cost them getting Robin back.
Right.
In this moment, instead, his cooking is so fucking good that it literally saves them.
Yeah.
Whereas there
That
is
it
a like
literally
as he
knocks
mentions
them out.
he says I don't want you to muck up the flavor with poison. There is a non-zero chance that poisoned cake tastes bad, doesn't kill Big Mom, and then she kills everybody. You know?
Right.
And so
Yeah.
it's this situation where Sanji's limitations are actually his strengths,
Right. Exactly.
which
His
is
conviction,
his
which is
conviction and his drive, and the best things about him are the best things about him, not the worst things about him.
right. I love this shit, man.
I love this shit, man. Oda's over here
Uh
making me like Sanji for once. It's not good. It's crazy.
I also love that Pudding does Sanji's bit this whole time when he's like locked in.
Yeah, I like that too. I like that Sanji has like he has his one moment with Nami and he's like, all right, I gotta lock in. But I will say that's another thing actually I really liked about this arc, and another showing of how good this arc is that this is maybe the only arc where I think that the both of the jokes, both Sanji's joke and Brook's joke are done well.
Yeah.
I mean, the one at the beginning with Brook is awful and sucks. But the one in this section with Big Mom I think is good. And then
Right.
Sanji like coming back into himself with that, and then it getting mirrored with Pudding is funny.
It's good.
And then we
Um
get more of the awesome carrot action, and then Big Mom
yeah.
appears and
I
lands on the
also do
ship.
love that it gives this little moment of Carrot being like, I just have to hide my eyes, gives us a reason why all the minks wear like hats,
Like
big
hats
hats
and
or
sunglasses
sunglasses.
and stuff. It's really funny.
It's a weird like character consistency, but now you understand that it's because they have to hide their eyes from the moon.
Yeah, or else they turn into Shulongs.
Yeah.
And then Big
But yeah,
Mom
Big Mom
lands
is
on
also
the.
fucking terrifying, and
She's terrifying. It's really
Ride
awesome.
because fire hair with Napoleon in sword mode. She is this is the force of nature
Yeah,
that is
this is
Big
the
Mom,
the
that is
full force
Charlotte
of nature
Linlin.
mode, and is really awesome. And I love this section from the crew, cause like
Hmm.
Brook and Chopper and Nami are not our best fighters,
Right.
you know?
These guys they cannot fight an emperor.
Like they are capable, they are not Emperor capable. And Jinbei
Yeah,
is like he can go toe to toe with an Emperor, but not for very long, right?
not for very long.
Like
Right.
Jinbei can't win. He can hold his own, but he's not. I don't think any of the crew is quite at Emperor level yet.
Right.
Is sort of what I'm getting at. And the way that the whole crew, this group of the not the weakling trio because Usopp's not here, but the some of the weaker members of the crew
Yeah.
locking in together to not only save the Sunny but repel Big Mom.
Yeah, but also fight off Big Mom.
Like she's about to cut the whole ship in half, and Jinbei's able to block it with his hockey, which is awesome. getting another
Yeah.
hockey user on the crew. And I also there's this moment of like everybody's worried about Jinbei going in the water like he's not a better in the
Like
water.
he's not a fish man.
Like he's not a fish man.
Yeah.
And then, you know, Nami trying to stop him or stop Big Mom from destroying Carrot's room, and then
Mhm.
Chopper using guard point to protect Nami, which stalls Big Mom long enough for Jinbei to douse Prometheus with the
Mhm.
water, and then get a mean hit in.
Uh huh.
And then the cooperation between Brook and Nami is so awesome
Yeah.
here. Of
Oh.
Nami taunting Big Mom, and then Brook swapping places to take the lightning, rip Eneru. And then he has this whole moment where they're squaring off and they're all trying to provoke Big Mom. Of course I
Right.
do. So might I suggest you give me a glimpse of your undergarments instead, as like this distraction, and Nami and Chopper. I'm not even sure if it's genuine or if they're playing off shock. Are like, what is he doing?
I
He's
think
gonna
I
make.
think it's genuine.
I mean, like, cause their whole plan is to distract Big Mom and bring her closer so that they can take out or Zeus, right? But also, I don't think they were planning on Brooke going that
I don't
far.
think you're saying that.
And then Brooke gets this awesome moment with the soul
Mhm.
notch slash slicing Zeus in half.
Oh, it's so
From the
sick,
very
dude.
start, our target has been Zeus. And then Nami's able to do like this crazy electric shock on Big Mom, knocking her
Mhm.
out, and it's awesome. It's really cool.
And
Also,
I
we
and
get
I love
Zeus.
I love this moment where it's Nami's like, you seem to have been under misconception. I wasn't asking you to be my friend. Let me state the question again. Do you want to be my servant,
Or
or
would
do
you
you want
want
to
to die?
die?
And she literally does the
The
life or death
liver
thing,
life.
live or life thing that Big Mom does,
Mhm.
which is so funny.
It's so good.
Uh, and I really wish that Zeus had a little propeller on his hat. I think it would be so funny. And then
Uh,
we move
oh
into
yeah,
this stupid
we get
girl. Who cares about
the
this character?
third act of the Katakuri fight.
The third act, the Katakuri fight, which is somehow better than the first two acts that were
Yeah,
already so
it's
good.
so good.
Um,
We get Flampe being here and
Flampe being
being like
here,
the Katakuri fan club.
yeah, the Katakuri fan club, and she
Uh,
she weakens
She's shooting these
Luffy.
like paralyzer needles at Luffy.
And like every
Um,
time Luffy gets knocked down, he's like half dead fighting Katakuri, and he
hmm
keeps getting back up
right.
over and
Which is
over and
my
over and over
which is my
again.
favorite my favorite parallel to these two is that Luffy is a man who will never stop getting back up, and Katakuri is a man who never gets knocked down.
Yeah, like Katakuri will never land on his back, and every time Luffy lands on his back, he gets up again and
Yeah,
goes at it one more
because
time.
which I think, uh, 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 this is it is a another encapsulation of the power of the person mirroring who they are, because rubber is always going to bounce back, but Mochi doesn't have that sort of quality. It can
Yeah,
be formed and shaped by its by what happens to it. It's good.
it's so good, and this moment of like he keeps getting back up, but every once in a while he
Hmm.
clashes or he gets almost a hit in, and Katakuri's like he's doing it
Yeah.
every very infrequently, but every once in a while he sees it. He sees the
Hmm.
future, and then Luffy has this moment. Coco Island at 1 o'clock. I will appear from the mirror anyway because
Yeah.
they believe in me. Paralleled
You get
with
with
Sanji.
the say
Oh my
Sanji
god, it's so
also.
awesome.
Oh my god.
Back and forth between
I'm
Luffy talking to Katakuri and Sanji talking with Pudding and the rest of the chefs of like, I am gonna beat you. I'm gonna make the best cake ever. I'm gonna get back up one more time. We're gonna get this to Big Mom because
right.
there's no other option because they
Right.
believe in me. The rest of the crew believes in me being able to do this, and so it has to happen.
It has to
There
happen.
is no other option. Uh,
I love that because that parallels what what Katakuri said earlier in the fight. He's like where Luffy's like, I'm gonna beat you and get to the island, and Katakuri's like, that wasn't an option. I didn't give you that option. You can't happen. Which is what Luffy does. When he's faced with these impossible situations, he's gonna break down the wall and
yeah,
find a third door through.
exactly.
God,
It's just
I
so
feel like
awesome.
I feel like I haven't been able to analyze because I'm just still in awe of how sick this is.
Yeah, there's not a ton to analyze for this part of this
Yeah,
fight. It's just really cool. It's
it's
great
just really
action.
sick.
I love the reunion with Sanji and the rest of the crew. Is
Hmm.
so great. Um, and we get back to Luffy. Luffy gets this mean fucking hit.
Yeah, this fucking gouge out of his fucking stomach,
Yeah,
and you see like the catatonic face from fucking from
from
Marineford.
Marineford show up again. And even still, Luffy gets back up.
Hmm.
And then,
Uh,
after not too
yeah,
long, Katakuri immediately starts to notice what's wrong. He's acting
yeah,
different. He's
yeah.
not, and it's not like he thinks that he's beating him down. He's like,
Right. He
that's
can tell
odd.
that
He's telling us something's
he
wrong.
thinks that Luffy is just
Giving
is
up.
has just reached his limit.
And he's like, I could have sworn you had more in you than that. Like he's
Right.
surprised. He's like, I could have, like, is my judgment wrong? Were you
Right.
not worthy the way I thought you were?
Hmm. Which I mean, for the man who can see the future, that is
Yeah,
such a powerful statement to be like, how was I wrong?
yeah. How was I
I
wrong
like
about the
I
future
know
you're
how
in?
I could tell how strong you are. You were what's going on?
Yeah, you were able to see the future I could, even if only for a moment.
Right.
Um, and even still, he gets back up.
He gets back up again.
And while his eyes are closed, half dead, he sees the future.
Hmm.
And he dodges the needle and falls over.
Hmm.
And then Katakuri realizes what's going on. And this is another one of the best moments of this fight.
Yeah. He just like slowly walks over to Flampe, and
Yeah,
she's being her weird, gross fangirl.
yeah, I see. So it was you. You took away his nobility with your special silent blowgun. His focus was clearly faltered. I knew something was wrong. That was when I gouged his stomach, inflicting a fatal blow. But do you really think I want to win that way? It's so awesome. And he gets
It's
back up
so good.
again while Katakuri
Yeah,
is doing this.
while
He
this is
gets back up
happening,
again, wobbling. Um,
and he
and
says,
then he
"What's so funny?"
funny, and then
And then
gouges himself out in
fucking
the
gouges
exact
himself in
same
the
wound
same way.
that he gave to Luffy, and then tears off the scarf, showing his crazy teeth and his scarred
Hmm.
face. The last thing I
The
need is
last
some
thing I need
half-assed
some half-assed
assistance.
assistance.
If you're
And
gonna
then
laugh at that idiot,
Flampe,
then laugh at me too. And I think this is truly when
this is the moment
Katakuri
when,
is freed
yeah,
by Monkey D. Luffy.
he pulls off the mask that he's been wearing, literally and figuratively. After and Flampe is like, "Stay away from me, you monster! Don't touch me." And everyone is surprised at Katakuri's face,
Yeah,
and she turns on him, says, "You suck."
yeah, you suck. You're not the brother Katakuri I know.
Mm-hmm.
And they all
Ugh.
start, and then we get the flashback of her making the same jab at him that the kids did back when he was a child,
Mm-hmm.
calling him a pelican eel, which I don't know. Is that a real animal or is that a One
Yeah,
Piece animal? I don't know.
that animal on the page that they're like comparing him to. That's a real animal.
Okay, I didn't know if it was a One Piece animal or not.
Yeah.
Regardless,
Um.
it's just so awesome.
It's so good.
Um, and so
And you
like, and
see,
the way he just ignores them all. He just turns
right.
around. He ignores them taking pictures of him. He doesn't
Mm-hmm.
care. He doesn't need to be perfect
He
anymore
doesn't need to be perfect anymore. That's right.
because he has more important things.
Mm-hmm. Says, "Sorry about this. I was sloppy. I failed to notice that needle. There's no such thing." And then Luffy says, "There's no such thing as fighting dirty in a battle between pirates. It was my fault for not being able to dodge it.
I've had enough of
I've
the
had
peanut
enough of the
gallery.
peanut gallery.
They
They
will
won't be able to stand after this anyway." And they
they
both release their Conqueror's
Conqueror's
Hockey
hockey at the same time. A
and
clash of
knock out
Conqueror's
all the
hockey,
other fuckers.
knocking out all of the peanut gallery,
Hmm.
and
And
it's
then he
just
takes his shirt off and reveals his tattoo.
to I no longer assume that you are inferior to me. That's great, thanks, but I'm still gonna win.
Still gonna win. Oh,
Awesome.
I love
So
I love
fucking
it so
awesome.
much.
So fucking awesome. So awesome.
It's so good.
And then we move into a flashback with Rayleigh,
Yeah.
which is fun. I love seeing these flashbacks of Rayleigh just because I love Rayleigh.
Yeah,
And Rayleigh sort
just
of,
any moment we get to see Rayleigh is just fun.
yeah, and Rayleigh sort of explains sort of what you were talking about earlier of like
Yeah.
explaining
The
explaining observation hockey to Luffy and how it truly
hmm
works.
Yeah.
Uh, and we get
And
this
you
this
get this
awesome shot of Luffy seeing the future fully for the first time, I
hmm
presume.
Yeah.
Seeing all these punches coming from Katakuri, dodging all of them, and then getting
hmm
hit. But he
Yeah.
he's making progress mid fight, and it's
hmm
so cool. Literally, I mean, Luffy is improving at a skill mid fight as opposed
Right.
to getting a bigger punch, and it's really
Yeah.
awesome. And then Luffy gets some hits in too, which is also
hmm
cool because like Luffy has not gotten a lot of hits, and we get this.
Luffy gets fucked up in
Luffy
this
gets
fight.
fucked up in this fight, and it's this. I love this. This is one of my favorite things when this sort of thing happens of like the timer, like the actual what time it is,
Yeah. Right.
cutting back and forth between like what time it is and what's going on in the real world with the fight between Luffy and Katakuri, and we're getting closer and closer and closer to that time, that promised
hmm
time that Luffy said he would make it in time to
Right.
get there. And the just absolute shit kicked in that happens to Luffy is so insane.
Oh my god.
Um, and Sanji, cut in between his Sanji's determination to go back to Coco Island with Pudding because he's gonna go
hmm
save his captain, which is
Right.
awesome. Um, and Luffy just and then this is I think maybe possibly my favorite part of the whole fight is when the two of them are talking to each other and they keep asking each other questions and they answer before the other person finishes the question because they're seeing the question in the future is
It's
so
so
awesome.
good.
Of what's wrong, Straw Hat? Is this? Yeah, that's right. All you've got? I accept. It's time to end this. It's so cool. If you can, I already answered that. Awesome.
It's so
And
good.
like this moment, these two are truly on the same level now.
Right. Exactly.
And so Luffy brings out Gear 4, Snake
Snake
Man.
Man, which
Is
I like.
awesome.
It's just really sick. I
It's
love
just
that.
fucking cool.
I also have a small gripe that I want to address
Oh, please do.
because people will always like make this comment that Snake Man is like the speed form of Gear 4, right? Bounce Man is the power form and Tank Man is the defense form. He doesn't fucking move in Snake Man.
That
He
is
is this is
true.
not the speed form.
It's the
This is
speed attack form.
it's the attack speed form, but this is not the speed form.
If anything, that's probably, I guess, Bounce Man. Because he
Bounce
does
Man.
fly through the air.
That's my
Um,
only small gripe with the community here.
but this whole section is so awesome
Oh my
of
god,
of Snake Man.
Snake Man.
Snake Man is so cool, and I feel like with the reveal of Snake Man, I am becoming less and less confident in my prediction that I think there's going to be a more stable version of Gear 4. I'm still hung up on the fact that Rayleigh said that the problem with Gear 4 is that it uses too much hockey, and that's still true of Snake Man.
Right.
But I don't know. I feel like as I know that we're not. I mean, that's not that we're close to Gear 5, but we're approaching it pretty rapidly.
Mhm.
From what I understand, I know vaguely that Gear 5 is around, I guess, spoilers, the end of Wano.
Mhm.
Um, and Wano's next. So maybe there is a leveling
No.
up of Gear
The
4.
Reverie is
Sorry,
next.
it's the next major arc.
We got 5 chapters
We
before.
got 5 chapters before Wano. My apologies. So unless there is an awakening of Gear 4 that like makes Gear 4 more efficient, or like a version of Gear 4 that's more stable before we get Gear 5,
Mhm.
and I guess suppose it's still possible we could get stronger versions of Gear 4 even after Gear 5
True.
is introduced.
I mean, like he still
He was
uses
still
Gear 2 stuff
Gear 2
sometimes
and
as
Gear
like
3 all the time, right? So it's
and
not
they're
out of the
more
realm of
efficient after
possibility.
trading form.
It's just something that I'm still caught up on, like, because we get the flashback with Rayleigh here of like needing to be able to strike enemies that can dodge, right?
Mhm.
And so that's where this Snake Man comes in. And I
Right.
love these moments of like Katakuri can see the immediate future, so he sees the immediate punch coming, he dodges it, and then gets hit from
Hmm.
another direction.
Right.
And the
Because
Katakuri's like, "What is going on? How did he do that? What is happening? I know I dodged it. I saw it in the future, and then I dodged it."
yeah,
And then it's just so awesome seeing like the his like Omega Beam Gum Gum
yeah,
punches
it
is
is like
so
the
cool.
Omega Beam.
Of like, and it's just so cool. This whole fight part of this
Yeah.
whole thing is so cool. And Katakuri is also so good at using
Oh
the
yeah,
mochi mochi fruit.
yeah, we haven't really talked about it, but like the man who has the mochi fruit,
Fruit?
this is one of the he has pushed this devil fruit to its fucking limits,
Yeah,
dude. Like he is making the most of a kind of bullshit power, much like Luffy is.
yeah. It makes a lot of the people that we've seen with really crazy strong powers look kind of like chumps, you know?
Yeah, like Pika.
Yeah, yeah, like Pika. Like imagine
All my homies hate Pika.
like Pika thought he was him. Meanwhile, Katakuri's doing this shit with the mochi mochi fruit.
Yeah.
It's so cool. And this whole ending of the fight between them, especially the insane hit from
Oh
Katakuri.
my god, yeah.
Of like him just striking
Like in
through
this like
the
this
whole
is like
page.
in this like hulked out like demon looking
Yeah,
version of
hulked
him
out.
standing above Luffy, the hole that he put Luffy in,
Yeah, and the two just
and the
like
Luffy's right back up.
and the two keep trading blows back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and
Hmm.
forth. And Luffy gets back up and up and up, and they have their final clash. One big hit from each of them.
Right.
One last hit.
Yeah, let's
I'll
go
cut.
go to the end.
We'll
Go
come
to the
back.
end
We'll
of
come back to this. We'll come back to this. We get. Let's do the end of the fight first. Uh, and they're both standing there, and they both fall.
Mhm.
Um, but Luffy gets
Luffy,
back up, and it's interesting
and
because Katakuri falls and he gets back up
he falls on his
first. Falls on his
face.
face and he gets back up to watch Luffy get up one more time,
Hmm.
and then he
Uh,
falls
and then he
backwards.
falls backwards onto his back.
But before he says, "Will you be back someday to topple Big Mom?" Of course I will. I'm the man who will be king of the pirates.
You're looking quite
You're looking
far
quite
into the
far into the
future.
future. And falls
Oh my god.
backwards.
And I
Cinema.
love
Absolute
it's
fucking
just
cinema.
so good, dude.
Ugh.
Katakuri is this paragon of strength, this this man who has had his life effectively stolen from him by having put on this facade, and Luffy in this final moment truly liberates him.
Yeah.
And he then puts his not the straw hat, but his like mobster hat over
Over
his
his
mouth.
mouth. In a way almost reminiscent of Amazon Lily.
Right. Yeah.
Even though like Katakuri's already thrown that away and he's on his
Yeah,
back,
but he does
even
Luffy doesn't
still,
know if that
Luffy
he
doesn't know if
wants
that matters.
he doesn't know if he still wants, other people to see that.
Yeah. And so he
And so
covers it up.
with this respect for this man who has pushed him to be stronger, to have improved Luffy, he covers up his
He
mouth.
covers up his mouth. And I just love it. These two are so
Hmm.
cool. I love
And
their
I want
interactions
to
with
talk
each
and I
other.
want to talk a little bit now about the moment later on when Brule is talking to Katakuri. We can talk about that now. Where she's like, or Katakuri's telling her like, I do lay down, I lay on my back. And she's like, I know,
Yeah, I
I've
know.
seen you in the mirrors.
Yeah.
And
It's not
then
a big deal.
Katakuri asks if the Straw Hats got away, and she's like, I don't want to tell you because I know what you're gonna say, in a sort of like reverse of him doing the
Yeah. And I think doesn't he even say something so you can see the future now too, huh?
right. Um, and he says they got away, and he says good
Good. Because
because
he is now a believer in the Straw Hat Pirates, just like every
right,
other person that Monkey D. Luffy has saved
exactly.
across every different place we've been. And
Hmm.
even if this
And
time we
this
only saved two people, they still want to see
mhm,
the Straw Hats succeed.
right, and this will eventually, and I like my prediction is that this will eventually be what saves Whole Cake Island, what
Yeah.
saves Toto Land, is the small little interactions that we had with Pudding and Sanji and even Brule, to truly liberate this island.
I would agree with you. And I
And yeah,
am so
I
excited for it to
know that
happen.
people will say that actually Sparrow is next in line to rule Total Land.
Yeah, and
And
I want to watch
if
Katakuri
you
kill him.
think if you think that Katakuri is gonna lose a power struggle to the Lick Lick man, you're out of your fucking
I
mind.
forgot it was the lick lick fruit and not the candy fruit.
Yeah.
Fucking lick lick, man. I hate Paraspero so
I
much.
hate
I
Sparrow.
hate that guy. I'm so excited for when we get to come back to this place and see Katakuri again.
Mhm.
I just want more Katakuri screen time. I already am so blown away with what we have from Katakuri.
Mhm. Oh, it's so good.
And so it's just so awesome.
And now I think we want to talk about the other person who was saved.
Yeah, I think we'll talk about the other person who was saved. I think we get it as a flashback, don't we? When is it?
Yeah, it well, because we get the
Yeah, because Germa
first
66
bit
is a,
and then
but
it cuts.
yeah. So Sanji, while he's getting ready to go save Luffy, is there
Mhm.
with Pudding, hiding in an alleyway, and Pudding asks him for a favor.
Mhm.
One last favor.
How far forward is this?
I have no idea. That's why I'm just talking.
It's it's been so
I'm
long.
looking for the.
Oh, oh,
No, did I miss it? When did it? I didn't see the. There's like the film on the panels, right? You know what I'm talking about? When does that
I know
shit
what you're talking
happen?
about. Where is this
Unless
shit?
it happened during the Katakuri fight, but I don't think it does.
No, no way. Wait,
No, it's not, because this is when
no,
she asks
yeah,
for
this is
the
just the.
favor.
Mhm.
I have request one last thing before you go, and then we cut back to the Katakuri fight. I'm
Yeah,
sorry, folks.
yeah.
Unless
Sorry
it
about this.
happens
The
after all this stuff does.
I think it does. It's like
Oh,
way
yeah,
up.
it's in the
Yeah, yeah,
next
yeah, yeah.
volume.
Here it
But
is.
yeah, um, we learn about
What that
so
favor
we favor
was.
was because we didn't see it. We saw Sanji rescue Straw Hat and everything.
Yeah,
And we
and we
cut
saw
back
Pudding
to
crying
we
afterward.
saw Pudding crying after when we cut back to Pudding, who is looking at a film reel and crying. And she's
Mhm.
thinking back on memories of Big Mom being mean to her, Sanji proposing, her making
Mhm.
fun of Sanji, the scene of him saying that she has a beautiful eye. She just keeps
And
crying and crying
she's
and crying.
weeping.
And then we look at the film reel that she's looking at.
Mhm.
Just one last thing before you go. She takes the cigarette out of his mouth and presumably kisses him.
Yeah. Mhm.
Thank you and goodbye. She takes the memories of, I assume, just the kiss, since that's all we see in the film reel, whereas everything else is in
Yeah.
normal memory mode in the way Oda draws stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh
As
my
she
god.
runs
And
away from Sanji. What
I
was your
love
last
Pudding so much,
request?
dude.
I fucking love Pudding, man. This whole section is so good with
Because
her.
she selfishly steals this kiss from him and then selflessly steals the memory of it from Sanji because
Yeah,
she knows that he wouldn't be able to leave her here if she knew how she actually felt about him.
yeah.
And so
And so she
resigns
knows
herself,
that
self-sacrifices herself to stay
because
here,
she wants what's best for him, and what
right?
she
And
believes to
what's
be best for
best,
him is going with Straw Hat Luffy
right?
and being the chef of the would-be
Right.
king of the pirates.
Mhm.
And it's just so it's devastating, really.
Oh, beautiful,
It's
man.
beautiful, it's devastating. Um, I love seeing Sanji rescue Luffy. It's a really
Yeah,
cool
yeah.
set piece, especially with Germa showing up and helping protect their
Mm-hmm.
failure of a brother.
Their failure, and I love the way that failure is flipped in this last section, where they're all
Yeah.
kind of like pushing Sanji to get out of here. And is it Niji the blue one?
Uh, yeah, Niji is the
Is
blue
that
one.
yeah? It's like so
So
long
long,
failure, but
failure.
he's smiling,
He's smiling.
and you can tell that maybe there's this small bit of respect that has been grown for Sanji in his
Yeah.
siblings, much like he has this sort of at least I think that Sanji has this small bit of respect for his siblings,
Yeah. And it's
or
and
at
it's
least
after
grace for them, you know.
and it's the beautiful moment of after they've all, you know, called Sanji a failure and thrown him away and made sure that he escapes, including
Mhm.
Judge, who helps him escape, and calls him a failure, lists all his quote unquote worst
Yeah.
qualities that Luffy doesn't agree with is when we see the fruits of Sanji's labor in this arc. A
Right.
Big Mom eating that cake, and it was everything she could have ever hoped
Is
for because
yeah.
he's the best chef on the damn sea, the one who will find the all blue.
God damn it.
It's to die
It's to
for.
die for.
It's just what an awesome,
Ah.
just awesome culmination of everything all at once, you know?
Yeah.
And then the like her gaining all her power back
Mhm.
and things getting even worse for the crew as the all the homies across all of Tato Land sing their little song
Uh-huh.
as the crew is getting obliterated. Germa is not doing well. I don't even know if Germa made it out of this shit. We don't
It
know.
is
I mean, it
unclear.
doesn't look good for them. At least last we see of them
Mhm.
with the brothers and Reiju looking beat up and injured, and Judge facing off like a huge chunk of the army by himself.
Mhm.
Um, and then almost a
Yeah.
trick into thinking that the Straw Hats have been defeated. But they end up being
Right.
saved by the Sun Pirates,
By
by
Watatsumi.
Watatsumi of all characters, the Sun Pirates who needed to see their captain off.
Mhm. I
But
love the moment of like of I don't know exactly where it is, but it's like at least until you leave Big Mom's territory, we're still your subordinates, right, Jinbei? We will be your subordinates.
yeah,
And Jinbei, I cannot
I
abandon them
cannot abandon
now.
them now. And Luffy immediately got it.
Uh-huh.
Then we'll stay. And he gives his whole. But no, Luffy's immediately like, okay, we'll just stay and we'll fight with the Sun Pirates.
Mhm.
Like if you
And
can't lead them, then
and
I can't
Jinbei's
lead them. Jimmy's like,
and
no,
Jinbei's like,
I got it.
no.
I will be the rear guard. I will ensure the ship gets away. Allow me to hold down the end of the line. I will fulfill this duty and return alive. Don't
Mhm.
forget, Shenbei. Your captain is me now. We're not stopping this ship. We'll be waiting in Wano, so you'd better show up. Don't let even death stop you.
Oh my god.
My God.
It's so
Oh
that's
my
the why
God.
is that the moment that made me tear up?
Why that? Me too. Why did that moment make me cry? When I didn't cry when I was talking about Pedro. Ugh.
Do not even let death stop
Do
you.
not even let
It's
death stop
such
you.
an incredible line.
It's just so awesome.
Yeah,
Luffy's
it's fucking peak.
unwavering
It's all,
faith in
hmm
Jinbei because he has an unwavering faith in every member of his crew.
right.
Uh,
Right. And then
and then
I
we.
got a little bit to talk about
Oh,
here.
please talk all you want about Big
I
News Morgan.
just
Please give me your Big News Morgan
right. We
speech right
get
now.
the Straw Hats escaping, leaving bait for the rear guard. Uh, his fleet being held back. And then you get Big News Morgan saying, talking to Stussy, saying, you seem to be," or she says, "You seem to be in his corner." He says, "Well, yeah, he's certainly a contender. The way I see it, Stussy, in the near future, one of the worst generation is going to rise to claim the mantle of Pirate King." Which I think that this is a turning point for Morgan, who has been the sort of propagandist uh for the world government. But he has also been the one who's been watching everything that's going on. You know, he's like, no, it's not gonna be one
Yeah.
of the fucking emperors who does it. It's
It's
gonna
one of
be
these
one of the worst
kids.
generation.
It's
And
one of the worst
he is
generation.
back, and his money is on Luffy.
His money is on Luffy, and I
And
think
I
it will
love,
will be a clash between I think two members of the worst generation eventually
yeah.
of
But
Luffy and Blackbeard.
this is a character archetype that I really love. And it brings me back to a show that is quite near and dear to uh, you and my heart, Code Geass,
Oh yeah, Code Geass.
with the man with one of the most unfortunate names in anime, uh, Detard.
Yeah, yeah.
He Ignus Morgan reminds me so much of him. It's this sort of this newsman who has been caught up in the storm and the charisma of Monkey D. Luffy, and now is looking just to see, like, Morgan is a character who just wants the story. You know, he is a storyteller, he is a newsman,
And he thinks that the
and so
most
he
interesting
wants
story is Monkey D. Luffy being
exactly.
Pirate King.
He thinks that the most interesting story is Monkey D. Luffy. I love it so much.
Very interesting.
I really can't explain why.
I also think it's interesting he's on such friendly terms with a member of CP0.
Yeah,
Like
but
he's willing to. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I mean there might be more
I
to
mean,
CP0 than I know.
Stussy's like seems to be this like a have a persona that is outside of CP0 of the queen of the district or whatever that means. Uh, presumably she is like sort of a secret CP0 agent or something. Is my read on it?
Yeah. And then we move into our final chapter where
Uh huh.
Sanji learns Pedro is dead, and he starts to blame himself for it. And before he can even finish, Carrot says, "It's okay, Sanji. Pedro chose to do that of his own free will. Don't feel responsible. You and your friends saved our home. If he came here to repay that favor, if he hadn't been here, then everyone would have died. So please, just tell him thank you."
Oh my god.
Fuck
Oh my
me.
god.
Fuck me. This arc is so goddamn good. Holy shit.
Oh man.
Mm. I'm not crying. You're crying.
I'm crying.
Ugh. And then we have our final little bit with this song that I said I was gonna look into the lyrics on this poem and maybe do some theorying, and I didn't.
That's fine. You did a lot of
I did a
theory.
lot. I've got more to talk about.
Yeah, look,
Um,
hey guys, I know we're at the end of the arc. We're not done.
we have Chopper doctoring. We just have some nice shots and stuff, and we get
Right.
Then there's the pudding section and the brulee thing
Yeah.
that we talked about, and then we ended off with
And
Sanji
it's
doing what he does best, and a
with
parallel to
the
his father, Zeph.
mhm.
Because when someone's
You
hungry,
hungry? I'll
I'll
feed
feed
you.
you. We can talk after that.
Love it. I
Cinema.
love it so much.
Cinema. This arc is
Ah.
so fucking good. Alright. Now that we've got through the boring part of Whole Cake Island, I could talk. Now that we've been through our first 2 hours and 18 minutes, maybe not that much because I might cut some stuff out. I can talk about all the things on my list that I have not talked about yet. So I'm just gonna go from the top and start working down. First, Sabo.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Sabo was the thing I was thinking about. I was just thinking about I was thinking about Sabo because I tend to think about Sabo because
Yeah.
I want to find something to grab onto with Sabo, and I still am struggling to find something. But I have a note written about Sabo and the Will of D because I think it's interesting that Sabo is surrounded constantly by people who are Ds.
True.
He is the brother of Monkey D. Luffy and Portgas D. Ace, both of which are Ds. And he
Mhm.
works under Monkey D. Dragon. He is the second in command, the right
Mhm.
hand of Dragon the Revolutionary. And yet he himself is not a D. And I think it's
Yeah.
interesting that he is mixed in this whole world, this fate with the D and whatever the D or their deal is. And Sabo is for some way intertwined in that.
Right.
Um, and I don't know if I have more to it than that. Maybe there is something like that in the Lost Century of somebody, maybe like Alabasta, right? Alabasta, I am under the
Mhm.
assumption was some sort of royalty or nobility that was aligned with the D, and so that's why they didn't join the other nobles in Marihua. So maybe Sabo
Mhm.
is something similar to that, in that he is a noble who is friends with the most important D of this time, which I'm assuming is Naoki D. Luffy being the man's brother. And
Right.
maybe that's what's going on. I don't know. I just think it's interesting that he's surrounded by the
Yeah.
D, but not one himself. Let's
Um.
see. Then I have note about I think that there will be some antagonist, maybe multiple, at least one that I think is going to return with an awakened devil fruit that didn't
Oh
have
yeah.
one before. My
Yeah,
thought
for
was
sure. I think.
specifically Lucci. I was thinking that if Lucci has leveled up and has moved higher into station, and uh, I don't know, maybe I don't know if he's the leader of CP9. Didn't Spandam call him like leader or something or captain?
Um. I don't remember
Um,
honestly.
so I don't know. There's at least some implications that Lucci is
He at least
he's either
seems like high up in the
he's
organization
at least
at
a
some
big
point.
deal in CP0. He's a
Right.
big deal. And going from the head of CP9 to being disgraced and hunted by the world government to one of the biggest deals in CP0, I feel like he's got to be obviously stronger than he was, and I feel like an easy way to
Mhm.
make Lucci stronger is to have him awaken his devil fruit.
Right.
There could be other villains
I wonder what
too,
a
like maybe Crocodile or Buggy, I don't know.
the awakened. leopard fruit
I
would
still
be.
don't I still don't understand how the awakened Zoan types work because we've seen like that's the most we've seen is awakened Zoan types and I don't know what makes them different really.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I do, so I can't like help you theorize.
what the heck? Let's see. What else do I have? Okay, I have this one. So I had to actually dig for this myself because apparently nobody has uploaded this image on Google Images, bro.
Dude,
Um,
yeah.
is a shot from way back in Sabaody, which is a shot after Luffy uses Gear 3. This is original Sabaody. He uses Gear 3 and then he's in little baby mode. And it's a shot of him lined up with their backs facing us, of Luffy small, and the center is Kid, and then on the right is Law.
Yeah.
And my thought process was I was thinking of this because I was thinking about Kid. Because I think the reason I started thinking about Kid is that obviously Kid and Apu and Hawkins got their shit kicked in by Kaido, right?
Yep.
So why is Kid the only one there?
Well, you can kind of infer that at least
Exact.
Apu,
Hmm.
uh, kind of either he because there was the transponders now that looked like Apu who was talking to Kaido, so you can
Right.
assume that Apu kowtowed to Kaido.
Exactly. That's sort of my thinking. Is my thinking is
Yeah.
that either Apu and Hawkins ran away or they submitted and then Kid fought. And that's
Right.
why Kid got fucked up. Because
Yeah.
Kid, I think, is more like Law and Luffy than he is like Hawkins and Apu. I think he's a
Right.
real dreamer. I don't know a lot about Kid. I just like I have these ideas about Kid that I want to be true
You think
because
do
I
you
think
think
he's
he's a
cool.
D?
I I don't. That is an idea I had not thought about. That's an interesting thought.
Because
Because
Law
Law
and
is a
Luffy both
D.
are.
Oh, that's a thought I hadn't thought of. I'll need more time to think about whether or not I think he's a D. But I think there is some connection between the three of them because they were the big three back in Sabaody,
Right.
right?
Yes. Absolutely.
And
They
I
seem to be the
think
biggest players.
Kaido is, I believe, basically planning to send Kid to Law and Luffy to tell them to run away and to give up, right? But
Yeah.
I think that Law is a dreamer, and I think that he is not going to take no for an answer. And I think that he is going to want to ally himself with Luffy and Law to try and beat Kaido. And I think we
Yeah.
are going to get a scene that mirrors the one from Sabaody, except this time Kid will be the small one in the frame. He's going to be in the center,
Mm,
and Luffy and Law are going to be standing tall and proud on the left and right, flanking him. That's my thought.
interesting.
Is that I think that Kid is going to ask for their help, whether it be him kowtowing to them and asking them
Mm.
to like ally him so that we are strong enough to take down Kaido. I don't think that he's going to give up and fold to Kaido, and maybe that's me believing in useless Captain Mid a little too hard. Um, but I don't know. I just think I think he's cool, and I want to see him do something cool. And
Hmm.
I feel like that shot before was about how Luffy was not on the same level of these two. And if Luffy is willing, and Luffy and Law are ready to take on Kaido, and Kid got his ass beat by Kaido, so my
Hmm.
assumption is that Kid is not on their level anymore.
Mm.
So we need, and I don't know if that means that there's eventually going to be a shot where Law is not on their level. I feel like we kind of missed our opportunity for that to happen after Dressrosa, because I don't
Yeah.
know what could bring Law that low unless maybe Dofi comes back and that sends Law into like a spiral or something.
Dude, fucking
But I'm just spitballing there on that one. But I think that
we get
Kid
a
is going to
second
show up, and
jailbreak arc
yeah,
to get Doflamingo
I
out.
mean, hey, he's in Impel Down level 6 according to the SBS,
Yep.
so I would
Impel
not be
down
surprised if we
to.
see him come back somehow. Let's see
Oh, I mean, yeah.
here.
There's no way that Doflamingo doesn't come back.
Let's see. My next thing is about Ace, Portcullis D Ace.
Yeah, I
Um,
saw that. I'm very interested in this.
I don't know. I wish I could say I have like a reason why this thought came to me. I guess it
Hmm.
came from our last discussion. I talked a little bit about how Ace's will and Ace's like presence is still felt with Jinbei and Luffy and
Hmm.
everything, and that got me thinking about Ace. And
Yeah.
I just like I feel I don't know. I've got this sense that Ace is and with Marco, and I feel like Ace is going to become important somehow to the story again. Especially since,
Interesting.
before back in Dressrosa, I had my whole talk about how Luffy and Sabo are carrying the will of Ace, and that there's the Joker, and we need a card that can beat the Ace. But now that I know that presumably the cards are Kaido's crew with Jack and
Hmm.
Joker, that we still need an Ace. So maybe
Yeah.
we need Luffy and Sabo to beat Kaido instead of Doflamingo. And I think there's
Mm.
somehow something about Ace is going to come up. I think because we've got Marco in the picture, we've got Luffy in the picture. Maybe there's some. I mean, Whitebeard has been to Wano. Maybe Ace was with Whitebeard when he went to Wano and has some connection to somebody in Wano.
Mhm.
Maybe I don't know. And then there's like the whole I still don't. I mean, I don't know if this is an Ace thing or if it's a something else thing, but I've been thinking about it because she's on the cover of the volume that I wasn't able to finish. Is Bonnie, and back in Marineford, Bonnie has that moment where she's like, I forget what she said. She's like, "What are you doing?" and she's crying, right?
Yeah.
And that still has not been brought up or connected to at all. So maybe that's related to Ace. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not confident on that, but I feel like Ace is going to be
You think
important
that
somehow.
some, you think that Ace is going to be somehow relevant to Wano?
Yes, I think whether it be the will of Luffy and Sabo creating Ace, quote unquote, I think it could be
Mhm.
Marco. I think it could be Whitebeard's influence in Wano. I think somehow Ace is important because I feel
Yep.
like Ace is coming back into the story in some way. I just don't know what it is. I don't think he's coming back alive, obviously. I just think he's.
No, no, no.
I think that he will be narratively important soon.
Mhm.
Next, I want to talk about the pirate with the eye patch, whoever they may be.
Oh, interesting. Who is that?
Because I don't have a theory on who they will be because
Yeah, I know.
I don't I mean I guess I could theorize that somebody's gonna lose an eye and they'll be the pirate with the eye patch, but that's not what I'm gonna get into because that would
Yeah.
be Zoro. Uh, but my understanding is that the person with the eye patch is supposed to be the most piratey pirate of all time, and when they show up, we'll be nearing the end, maybe like entering into the final third or whatever, right?
Mhm.
Is my understanding of what the pirate with the eye patch is supposed to be. And my thought
Right.
process was Oda has said many a time, One Piece is about to end, right?
Yeah.
We're getting there soon. So my thought is that Oda was building up to the eye patch at one point and now has had to derail that because I was thinking, what are the most iconic things that a pirate normally has? They have that big stupid hat, they have a peg leg, they have a hook hand, and they have an eye patch. And we see the stupid hat on Buggy, we see the peg leg on Zeph, and we see the hook hand on Crocodile.
Yep.
And there's a parrot. You have Lucci has a bird on his shoulder, like a parrot.
Right.
And then there's no eye patch for 500 chapters or more. And
Or
I
more,
think that
way more.
I feel like whatever the eye patch character was something that Oda had planned a long time ago and was originally going to introduce when the story was supposed to end way earlier, like when it was originally supposed to end around Alabasta. And now that has been pushed back, so I think they'll have some connection to something going on. I mean, I guess they don't need to, but I think they were a character planned way, 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 way back
Interesting.
because I was thinking about all these other elements of a pirate that we've seen on other characters, like the hook hand and the parrot and the hat and the peg
Right.
leg, um, and the eye patch is the only one missing.
Mhm.
Um, that was my thoughts on that I was thinking about. And since I was thinking they were so far back, I was having the similar thing that I was having with the Warlord. Where I was like, well, maybe they're related to somebody we know, but maybe it's just that
Right.
because it's not like Lucci or Crocodile are related to somebody we knew, so they could just be some guy.
Mhm.
But I think that Oda had him planned for a long time. I'm gonna save the breaking tradition for the next part. Eneru. I can talk a little bit about Eneru.
Yeah.
Because I was listening back to our Zoe discussion, and I said some crazy shit about how I thought that this arc was going to be Skypiea, right? And I don't think that's the case
Mhm.
anymore. But I
No.
was talking about Eneru and how I think I said something along the lines of he could see the future and make it a reality.
Uh-huh.
Who does that remind you of, huh?
I wonder who this could
Who
be.
does that remind you of? But I was talking about that.
Maybe like a man who is worth.
If there maybe a billion berries, possibly. But and then I was thinking about I forget who says this. It's in the beginning of this section, I think. I forget if it's Beshi or maybe it's Luffy. I don't think it's Luffy. I think it's Beshi that says this, where somebody says you can see the future Katakuri, but we all have the ability to shape it.
Yeah, yeah, bet that's bet she says it.
Yeah, I think Beshi says that. And I
Mhm.
was thinking of that in context of like back in Skypiea, Eneru could see the future, but he wasn't the one that ended up shaping it. It was Luffy that did. And the
Uh-huh.
same thing happens here of Katakuri sees the future and Luffy is the one who ends up shaping it. And
Mm.
Eneru was disappointed when that happened and Katakuri is not.
Right.
And that's my.
Oh man.
I feel like I wish I had more to say on Eneru, but I literally came up with this idea an
This is
hour before
your
we started recording. I did not have time to go into depth on this one.
no. This is your like. This is what I'm thinking about. These are like
Yeah.
my
Okay.
seeds of theories.
Next is back into. So I think I've talked about this maybe in every discussion we've done about how this
Hmm.
part of the story reflects the previous part of the story,
Right.
and that current time reflects or like post time skip
Yeah.
reflects pre time skip.
The new world is reflecting the paradise section.
Yeah. And so I have some notes about like how I think each thing connects. Initially, I have written Fishman Island as East Blue. I'm not sure if it's entirely the East Blue, but I have like Fishman Island as the fishmen, and there's taking out threats weaker than the crew, and you're gathering the crew back together. But now we have the
Hmm.
twist of now instead of being nobodies, we're super notable, right?
Right.
And then Punk Hazard and Dressrosa, I now have as not just Alabasta but also Skypiea because you
Hmm.
have leadership. You have Luffy as the natural enemy to a god, whereas he was the natural enemy to Eneru because he was made of rubber, and he's the natural enemy to Dofi because he's a D.
Right.
And then you have like an inversion of understanding of like leadership and all this other stuff. And then I have Zoe and Whole Cake as Water Seven, Ennie's Lobby, and Thriller Bark.
Uh huh.
Um, because you have the interpersonal drama with the crew. You have Sanji as both as Robin but trying to be Usopp.
Hmm.
You have a physical threat to Luffy that requires him to level up with Katakuri as opposed to Lucci where he had
Right.
to utilize and master Gear 2 and Gear 3. Now
Hmm.
he has the gears mastered. Now he has to level up his hockey by fighting
Yeah.
Katakuri. There's a moment at the end. I skipped past it, but when Big Mom and her fleet are attacking at the very end, Big Mom says something along the lines of that she wants to take Luffy's soul and turn it into the strongest homie. You know what that sounds like to
Ah.
me? That sounds like
That
Gecko
sounds.
fucking Moria, all right?
They're
And you have this parallel of instead of ripping people's shadows out of them, you
actual
rip out their
souls.
actual souls and taking that sort of angle with Thriller Bark, and you have a whole instead of in Thriller Bark we had this introduction of what death can look like, and then in this arc we have it flipped on its head with Pedro
Hmm.
for Thriller Bark. And so now I want to do some predicting about if these are the connections I'm making with what's going on, then what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
So
Where do we go
my
from
thoughts
here?
is that Wano is going to be Sabaody, which I suppose is a little funny when Wano is like 105 chapters long or something and Sabaodi's like 10, but I think that Wano is going to be sort of characterized with one facing off against a dragon because I think Kaido might be a dragon, which maybe is a spoiler or maybe it's not. I don't know if I know that for sure if I've been spoiled on that before, but I think he's a dragon. That's my feeling. I'm pretty sure I got spoiled on that, but I don't know if that's true or not. I haven't
I
looked it
don't
up or
know.
anything. I haven't checked my homework on that. Whereas in Sabaody we faced off with our first celestial dragon.
Right.
I think that it will be characterized as an arc where we are faced with an insurmountable threat, but this time instead of needing to run away, we're going to be able to push past it. I think that
Hmm.
Kaido is going to be that insurmountable threat. He is going to be the literal strongest creature in the sea, in the world.
Yeah. He.
And we
That
are
is.
going
That
to
is Kaido's
need to
epithet.
we are going to need to push past that. Whereas before, when we were faced with insurmountable threat of the admirals and the pacifistas and all this other stuff going on, we cracked. And I think
Hmm.
this time, now the crew as a collective are ready for this, and they're going to push beyond. They're all going to level up and push beyond, as opposed to caving and needing to spend 2 years to level up.
Hmm.
And so then I think whatever consequences of taking out Kaido, taking out an emperor is a lot bigger of a deal than taking out a warlord, right?
Hmm.
That's going to leave a
Yeah.
radical change on the stances of the other three emperors. It's going to change
Hmm.
the Marines. It's going to change everything. And so I
Yep.
think that whatever happens after Wano is going to be our Marine Ford. There's
Interesting.
going to be, I think, all hell is going to break loose on the Grand Line.
Hmm.
And now there will be a war between every faction in the New World as opposed to in Paradise.
I
Which is
mean, I
why
think
my
that's.
notes, which is why my notes for post Wano slash Marinefords just says, "Oh shit." um, and while I'm on this topic, I want to talk about Oda breaking tradition again
Uh-huh.
because Oda does not break tradition very often. There's a couple things that Oda usually does. For one, he doesn't kill people usually. He
Hmm.
usually ends with us beating the big bad and having a big yummy celebration where we eat a bunch of food.
Mhm.
And you know what happens in this arc? Somebody dies, we don't beat the big bad, and
And
we
we
don't have
don't
a
have a
big
party.
celebration. And that's not
Yeah.
very common. The last time we really had this happen, not counting, I'm saying this is like holistically as a saga, was
Mhm.
Saba Odi to Marineford.
Right.
Specifically with Saba Odi was where we had to run away and then Marineford somebody dies. We don't have a big hearty celebration, and the first instance of that of us running away was the catalyst for all shit to break loose.
Mhm.
And here we are running away again. And so I feel like, and the only other time that has happened was in Logtown.
Yeah.
And Logtown then serves as all shit breaking loose as, oh my god, the Grand Line is so much crazier than we could have imagined, right?
Mhm.
And like, oh shit, Dragon is here, and Luffy almost died. And we had to run away from Smoker, and we have this
Interesting.
building up
All
of
right.
the levels there, and so I think
If
that
what you're if
Oda
what
is
you're what you said
signaling to
earlier,
us that something is about to go big.
if what you said earlier, about Wano being this sort of um parallel to Sabaody, in the same way that like we ran away in Logtown where there is Dragon, and then there is
Oh
the
my god, I didn't even
Celestial
think about
Dragon,
that shit,
and
dude.
then Kaido is a dragon.
He's helping me cook. That's crazy. Yeah, that's where I'm at for sure.
Also,
I think that
I
this.
can kind of just you should be able to put together that Kaido is a dragon. You have all the shit with Zoro and Ryuma to do with the dragon. You have all the shit with Kinemon and Momonosuke and their relationship to dragons on Punk Hazard. I'll just tell you that Kaido is a fucking dragon.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I had that spoiled back when Gear 5 happened,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
uh yeah.
Um,
So that's sort of my thoughts on
do you
the.
want to know what the fruit is called, or do you want to save
No,
that?
I would like to hold that.
Okay, okay.
I would like to hold that. And then my last topic is something that I started thinking about. So before I had talked a little bit, I think it was in the Zoe discussion about them being heroes and how
Mhm,
I said that Law is also a hero. But I think that it's something different. I don't think it's necessarily heroism, but I've been noticing there is a trend throughout all of these arcs in some sort of what makes the Straw Hats special and what causes them to make these big changes in these places we keep going to is that the Straw Hats are uniquely and overbearingly kind.
mhm,
And I have a whole list because there's a certain Straw Hat, and I'm specifically looking at the New World here because obviously there's instances of them being kind pre New World. The New World is where they're making big changes in the world, right? Like the things that they are
mhm.
doing are having a much bigger impact, like taking out Caesar or Doflamingo,
Right.
are bigger deal things than stopping Gecko Mortia, for example.
Mhm,
Um, and there's a specific character that I think has yet to fit into this kindness. So we'll go through. I have Luffy, the kindness of a hero in Fishman Island and Dressrosa, as well as the kindness of a warrior slash equal in Whole Cake Island with Katakuri. I have
mhm,
Nami with kindness towards children with Punk Hazard. Usopp, the kindness of lying and the kindness of a sniper in Dressrosa by the kindness of a liar to the Tontata and the kindness of a sniper who makes it so that Luffy and Law don't even need to worry because he's sniping from all the way across. You have
mhm,
Sanji in this arc as the kindness of a chef and the kindness of a lover, both with the way that he cooks and the way that he's able to sort of flip pudding and make and free her with his kindness and love. You have Chopper, the kindness of a doctor, both in Punk Hazard and in Zoe.
mhm,
Um, you have Robin with a silent kindness, which is what I talked about in Dressrosa, with the way that she sort of silently sits back and is that's
mhm,
able to help be kind to Rebecca and Kidos. You have Frankie with the kindness of a man with Senor Pink. You
mhm,
have Brooke, the kindness of a musician and friend in Zoe, which was the whole thing that I talked about last time with the or not last time, but in Zoe with the Let's Go Meet Mr. Cat Viper song. And
mhm,
originally, I don't have it here, but I had a note about the kindness of death, but I don't have. I wanted to make a connection there, but I couldn't find one. So I'm leaving as maybe that will happen in the future. And then you have
mhm,
Jinbei with the kindness of a mentor with this arc of like
mhm,
guiding both Luffy as well as the rest of the crew in these moments where they're shaken up and broken with Pedro's death, and is able to kindly guide them to where they're going. And you may have noticed I left somebody out, which is Zoro.
Yep.
Because Zoro hasn't had a moment like that, at least not yet. He he was a sword guy in Fishman Island. He was kind of
Yep.
just a sword guy in Punk Hazard. He was a sword guy in Dressrosa, and then
Uh
he
huh.
wasn't in this arc, and then he didn't even want to go save Sanji, which is not necessarily kind. Um, Even if either of our views on that are a little more kind
Right.
to Zoro than I'm being saying that. But Zoro is the I just think it's strange. I don't know. Zoro is he feels like the odd man out. And it's not that Zoro isn't kind. We've seen Zoro be kind in previous arcs. I mean, look at Romance Dawn.
Hmm.
There we go, mentioning Romance Dawn again. But like, I think he feels like an odd man out amongst the crew in the New World. Um,
Yeah, I would agree.
and I think I don't know. Part of that stems from I'm still curious about how he lost the eye and things like that. So I think that Wano is going to be important for Zoro because there's samurai there, and Zoro is not a samurai in the sense of the One Piece world, but he is a guy who is intended to be Japanese, who wears like a yukata and fights with katanas. He is
Yeah,
a samurai,
he's
right?
a samurai.
So my predictions are I have notes about what does it look like to show the kindness of a swordsman? What does it look like to show the kindness of a samurai? What does it look to show about the kindness of a first mate? Those are my notes on Zoro and sort of what I think he may end up doing and looking like moving forward into Wano specifically, or maybe even beyond.
Yeah.
But I think that it would be weird if Zoro did not have any moments in Wano because I feel like he has been the least utilized member of the crew so far in the New
Hmm.
World. Is my thoughts on
All right.
it. And I think that is all of my theory
I
talk that I
think
have
that's
spent the last couple
everything that we
days
had.
preparing. This
Um,
arc is truly incredible. I am so excited
it
for
is. Yeah.
more. I've been thinking about this arc all week, and it just continues to get better every time I think about it. Um, and I imagine it will get better as I learn more about the story. And whenever we have
Yeah.
our moment where we come back to Whole Cake and
Hmm.
we truly liberate the island and we defeat Big Mom and all that stuff that I assume
Yeah.
will eventually happen since Luffy said it would, so it has to.
Right. He's looking so far into the future.
He's looking really far ahead into the future.
All right.
All right.
Well, this has been quite the
This has
episode.
been quite the episode.
Um,
Our longest, um, not by far, but by a decent margin.
by a good amount. Um, unless there's anything else you think you have to say, I think I
I
said everything I
don't.
want to say.
I don't. I mean, I suppose all my notes were about what's going to happen in Wano and not in the Reverie, but I mean, the Reverie's 5 chapters, so it's a little hard to say
Yeah.
what's going to happen.
Surely, surely there won't be enough for us to talk about just in the Reverie.
No, definitely not Smile.
Yeah,
He said I haven't.
we're doing an episode just on the Reverie in case you
Yeah,
guys
not that I've
didn't
read it. I
know.
haven't read it to clarify, but
Yeah, he's not ready yet. I think you're about to go read it though after we're done with this.
probably
At some point.
I will probably read it later today. Yes.
Yeah.
Um.
But with all
So
that being said,
plug time. Thank you all for
plug
watching.
time.
If you have somehow sat through a 2.5 hour discussion about Whole Cake Island, you probably liked it. So you
You
should click the like
definitely
button.
liked it's Whole Cake Island, guys. Come on,
You
you
know
know
you
you
like
liked
Whole
it.
Cake Island. It was, I mean,
Come on.
a delicious discussion. One might even go so far as to say, and if you liked it, other people might like it, and so you should
Right.
click the like button because then other people like you will also want to like it,
Yeah,
and
and you could
also
also hit the
the
subscribe
subscribe button,
button
and you should comment
so that you can see more of the things that you like.
more of the things you
And if
like,
you
and if
don't like it,
you should also like
then
the video and
you
write
should
a
also
comment
like the
about how
video.
much you disliked the video
Yeah.
and my theories and all that stuff,
So
and
that
also
so
if you
that
leave
other
a
people
comment
who dislike this can also dislike it.
exactly. And if you leave a comment that makes Misfit here cry, we will put a heart on it. And that's
Yeah.
a continued promise. If you're ever going to get a heart, this is the easiest time to do it, I would guess.
It really is, guys.
You could write
It
almost
really
anything about Sanji and he will probably break. So, get your hearts in now while you have your chance.
Mhm.
Uh so once again,
With
thank you
all
for
that
sitting
being
through
said,
all this. I think that's it for us and our very lengthy discussion.
mhm.
Cheers.
Cheers.